Bad Dream House. The Simpsons find themselves in a comedic take on the Amityville horror as they settle into a new house with an irresistible price tag. Lisa and Marge can't shake off their fears of an ominous force hiding within the house, while Homer dismisses their concerns, even with a peculiar vortex discovered in the kitchen. Ignoring the warning signs, Homer playfully tosses an orange into the vortex, only to have it promptly returned with a note requesting them not to throw anything inside. As tensions escalate, Bart finds himself entangled by a mischievous lamp cord, while the house itself starts to manage the family, hurling Homer skyward and clinging to the ceiling. During an unsettling night, the house possesses Homer and the children, driving them to grab weapons and turn against each other. Thankfully, Marge intervenes, stopping the chaos. Later on, the family discovers an ancient Indian burial ground in the cellar, and the house ominously threatens their gruesome demise. Fed up, Marge confronts the house, demanding it to show some manners, and surprisingly, it complies. Determined to assert their presence, Marge declares that the house will have to accept their occupancy. The house requests a moment alone to decide its fate, which ultimately it chooses self-destruction and implodes into nothingness. Hungry Are the Damned. In a parody of Damon Knight's story To Serve Man and his Twilight Zone adaptation, the Simpsons are having a backyard barbecue when they are unexpectedly abducted by an alien spaceship. On the spaceship, they encounter Kang, Kodos, and Sirac the Preparer, who treat them hospitably and provide an abundance of food for the upcoming great feast. As the family is weighed on a massive scale and the Rigelians insistently reference food, Lisa becomes suspicious and questions their true intentions. Curious, she ventures into the aliens' kitchen one night and witnesses Sirac preparing a dish to enhance the flavor of humans. Lisa discovers a book titled How to Cook Human and hastily accuses the Rigelians of planning to devour them. However, the full title of the book, How to Cook for 40 Humans, is revealed, changing the context. The Rigelians feel hurt, disappointed, and angry at the family's mistrust. They decide to punish them by returning them back to Earth. Kang and Kodos express that the Simpsons could have lived luxuriously, but now must face a normal human existence. As the aliens depart, Lisa reflects sadly that the true monsters were their own family. However, the rest of the Simpsons disagree, as only Lisa inaccurately suspected the aliens' intentions. Marge scolds her daughter, remarking that her intelligence sometimes works against her, and Bart and Homer sarcastically thank Lisa for squandering their chance at a prosperous life. The Raven. In a comedic rendition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, the Simpson family takes on the roles of the characters. The Raven narrator, portrayed by Homer, reads a book in an attempt to forget his lost love, Lenore, which is played by Marge. A mysterious knocking sound captures his intention, but upon investigation, he discovers a raven, but outside the window. As the raven enters the room and perches above the door, it amusingly exclaims, "Eat my shorts," which was uttered by Bart, but then interrupted by Lisa, clarifying that the raven only says nevermore. The raven continues to repeat the word nevermore, gradually driving the narrator to madness. Desperate to catch the mischievous bird, he unwittingly provokes it, causing the raven to drop books on him. Ultimately, the disturbed narrator finds himself lying amidst a sea of books, with the raven laughing at his predicament. During their trip to Morocco, the Simpsons stumbled upon a mysterious marketplace where Homer couldn't resist buying a monkey's paw. The vendor warned them about the consequences of making wishes with the paw, but Homer disregarded his advice, believing that he knew best. Upon returning home, the family had different ideas about how to use the paw. Maggie wished for a golden pacifier, and Bart wished for the family to become rich and famous. At first, everything seemed to be going great, and the family became the talk of the town, appearing on everything from billboards to t-shirts. However, the fame and fortune soon attracted negative attention, and the family became the subject of public backlash. Lisa decided to make a wish for world peace, but little did she know that her wish would attract the attention of the aliens Kang and Kodos, who saw the Earth as vulnerable and easy to conquer. Homer decided to make another wish. This time he wished for a simple turkey sandwich without any weird surprises. To his relief, the sandwich appeared to be perfect, except for the turkey being a little dry. Later on, Ned Flanders found the monkey's paw and used it to make a wish to get rid of the aliens, freeing the human race and becoming a hero. However, his subsequent wish for a castle made Homer angry and jealous. In Bart's nightmare, his mind has taken on supernatural abilities that allow him to manipulate reality itself. He is a godlike figure that can read the thoughts of others. This has turned the town into a fearful place where everyone is forced to be happy and cater to Bart's every whim. One afternoon, Bart returns home from school and demands to watch his favorite show, Krusty the Clown, but his father Homer refuses. In a fit of rage, Bart teleports Homer to the football stadium him, replacing the football and sending him crashing into the field post. Seeking revenge, Homer tries to attack Bart with a chair, but Bart turns him into a jack-in-the-box instead. Marge, desperate to help her family, takes Bart and Homer to Dr. Marvin Monroe. The doctor suggests that the two of them should spend more time together doing father-son activities. Homer takes Bart to a baseball game, fishing, shooting a BB gun, church, and an amusement park, and Bart starts to soften as he enjoys the quality time with his dad and decides to turn Homer back to his normal self, and the nightmare ends. In Homer's surreal dream, he finds himself fired for dozing off on the job. In a twist of fate, he becomes a gravedigger and accidentally falls asleep in one of the open graves. Meanwhile, Mr. Burns and Smithers are in a search of the perfect brain for their diabolical experiment to create the ultimate worker. They stumble upon the snoozing Homer, thinking he's already departed this life, and decide to take his brain for their twisted scheme. Mr. Burns is utterly disappointed with the result and orders Smithers to return Homer's brain to its rightful place. But things take a bizarre turn when the robot falls over and crushes Mr. Burns, leaving the rich tycoon in need of emergency medical attention. Homer wakes up in a cold sweat and realizes that it was all just a nightmare. However, to his horror, he discovers that Mr. Burns' head is still attached to his body in the real world, which Homer goes on to complain that he hates having two heads. Clown without pity. Bart's birthday is in full swing, and he's got a pile of amazing presents and even his grandpa's social security money. But there's one problem: Homer forgot to get a gift. In a panic, he rushes to the House of Evil, a one-stop shop for all your evil needs, where he picks up a talking Krusty doll. The store also sells a frozen yogurt called Frogurt. That's good! Despite its innocent appearance, the Krusty doll turns out to be quite malicious towards Homer, repeatedly attempting to kill him and making advances on Lisa's Malibu Stacy doll. After capturing the evil toy in a bag of dirty socks and disposing of it in a bottomless pit, Homer thinks the nightmare is over. However, the doll manages to follow him home and tries to drown him in Santa's Little Helper's water bowl. Desperate for help, Marge calls Krusty Co, and the repairman arrives to fix the doll's accidental switch. Though forgiven, the doll becomes Homer's servant and shares Lisa's dollhouse with Malibu Stacy. But the happy scene ends in a horror as the doll's affectionate gesture towards Malibu Stacy results in her head falling off. King Homer. The scene shifts to a black and white parody of the classic 1933 film King Kong, with Marge joining Mr. Burns and Smithers on an expedition to Ape Island in search of the fabled King Homer. However, Burns double-crosses Marge and uses her as bait to lure the giant ape. When King Homer arrives, he proceeds to take out a good chunk of Burns' crew. Burns tries to sedate the ape with a gas bomb, but only ends up gassing himself, prompting Smithers to toss the grenade and finally tranquilize King Homer. Burns returns to America with his captive, parading King Homer on Broadway for the press. But when the camera flashes anger the ape, he breaks free and wreaks havoc on the city, devouring people left and right, including Shirley Temple during the performance. He even tries to climb the Empire State Building but can't even get off the ground. Exhausted, King Homer collapses, prompting Marge to suggest he eat more veggies and fewer people. The story ends with the ape and Marge getting married on the same day Dick Cavett was born, with King Homer happily munching on Marge's father, Clancy Bouvier. Dial Z for zombies. Bart's book report takes a dark turn when he delves into the occult section of the school library. After finding a book of magic, Bart attempts to impress his sister Lisa by resurrecting their deceased cat, Snowball 1. However, his spell goes awry and he brings back an army of zombies instead. The undead rampage through Springfield, turning beloved characters like Principal Skinner, Ned Flanders, and Krusty the Clown into brain-eating monsters. As the zombie invasion spreads across Springfield, the Simpson family takes action to protect themselves by barricading all the doors and windows of their home. Homer attempts to sacrifice himself, but the zombies ignore him when they realize he doesn't have a tasty enough brain to eat. Lisa recognizes that the solution may lie in a book from the school library, and the family sets off to find it. They face a horde of zombies, which Homer wielding a shotgun to take down famous undead figures such as George Washington and Albert Einstein. While Homer distracts the zombies, Bart and Lisa locate the necessary book in the occult section of the library. Bart accidentally transforms Lisa into a snail with a spell from a different book, but he ultimately finds the correct spell and reverses the zombie curse. The family returns home safely, but they soon become distracted and mindless themselves, succumbing to the influence of mindless television programming. The Devil and Homer Simpson. Homer dreams of being a fashion reporter at a donut modeling show, but then finds out that all the donuts have been eaten by his work colleagues. In a moment of desperation, he sells his soul to the devil, who surprisingly turns out to be Ned Flanders. Homer realizes that if he doesn't finish the donut, the contract will be voided, but then the devil warns Homer that he will go to hell eventually before disappearing. Eventually, Homer eats the last donut and the devil appears again. Lisa convinces the devil to give Homer a fair trial, but first he must spend a day in hell. Homer is then punished by being force-fed all the donuts in the world until he goes insane. The family hires Lionel Hutz as Homer's defense attorney for the trial. The jury turns out to be a collection of infamous historical figures, including Richard Nixon, and Hutz makes a hasty exit when the devil offers proof of the deal. Homer is then about to be condemned to hell, but Marge presents a wedding photo with a declaration from Homer pledging his soul to her. The jury rules in Marge's favor and Homer is freed, but the devil retaliates by turning Homer's head into a donut, which Homer proceeds to eat in himself. A majority of Springfield's police await for him outside. Terror at 5.5 feet. Bart has a nightmare about his school bus crashing and being run over by a truck. Later, while on the bus going to school, he sees a gremlin attacking it. However, every time he tries to warn the others, they don't believe him. When he tells Otto about the gremlin, Otto mistakes his warning for Hans Moleman's car and knocks him off the road. Skinner tries to calm down his paranoia by closing the window shade, but Bart can't resist peeking out and spotting the gremlin. Skinner then tackles Bart and ties him up with Willie's rope. However, Bart convinces his seatmate Uda to free him and discovers that the gremlin is loosening the back tire. Using the bus's emergency flares, Bart opens the window and manages to knock the gremlin off. The gremlin then lands on Ned Flanders' car, and despite the gremlin's attempts to attack him, Flanders stops and picks it up. After the bus finally arrives at school, Skinner sends Bart to the new Bedlam home for the emotionally interesting. While there, the gremlin appears at the window of a truck and shows Bart the severed talking head of Flanders. Bart Simpson's Dracula. Wiggum destroys the museum's Egyptian wing thinking it's a mummy, but Lisa believes it's a vampire. The family then travels to Pennsylvania to have dinner with Burns at his mansion. Lisa is the only one who notices the obvious signs of Burns being a vampire. After Lisa spills the punch on herself and Bart, they discover Burns' vampire lair and investigate. As Lisa looks through Burns' autobiography, Yes, I Am a Vampire, Burns' vampire minions rise and advance on the two. The kids flee, but Bart stops when he sees a lever for a super happy fun slide. Knowing it's a trap, Bart pulls it anyway and slides back down into the lair, where a group of vampires are waiting for him. Lisa rushes back to the family to share what she discovered, but then Burns shows up with blood on his mouth and a bitten pale Bart who denies anything happening, which the family believes. Later that night, a vampire Bart appears at Lisa's window with other bitten children. The family intervenes and Bart turns into a bat and escapes. Lisa then suggests they need to kill the head vampire, Mr. Burns, to save Bart. The Simpsons return to Burns' castle and enter his lair. Homer accidentally hits Burns' crotch before driving the stake through his heart, killing him and getting fired in the process. The next morning at home, Grandpa claims to be a vampire and the rest of the family reveals they are all vampires too, with Marge as their leader. They bare their fangs at Lisa before turning to the audience and wishing them a happy Halloween in a closing shot that parodies a Charlie Brown Christmas. The Shining. In a hilarious parody of Stanley Kubrick's horror classic The Shining, the Simpson family becomes caretakers of Mr. Burns' summer estate. Upon arrival, Burns gives them a tour, revealing their house's dark history, involving satanic rituals, witch burnings, and even John Denver Christmas specials. As an elevator spills blood, Burns casually remarks that it usually happens on the second floor. Bart irritates groundskeeper Willie by using a chainsaw to cut through the hedge maze. Willie then believes Bart has the Shining, but is corrected by Bart himself, who mentions it's actually The Shining. Willie hushes him, fearing a lawsuit. Groundskeeper Willie instructs Bart to use his ability to call for help if Homer goes crazy. Meanwhile, Mr. Burns and Smithers sabotage the power cable and remove all the beer. The lack of TV and beer drives Homer insane. Moe, appearing as a ghost, offers him a beer in exchange for murdering his family. Homer initially hesitates but is convinced by Moe's argument that they would be happier as ghosts. Marge finds a typewriter with a message from Homer that reads "feeling fine," and he bursts in seeking a title for his writing. Marge suggests go crazy. Homer lunges at her, but she defends herself with a baseball bat labeled for spousal insanity. Homer scares himself in the mirror, falls down the stairs, and gets knocked out. Marge locks him in the pantry until he regains sanity. While Homer peacefully eats, Moe reminds him of their deal. During dinner, Homer mimics famous lines while breaking down doors, but each time he finds an empty room or grandpa. Finally, holding a stopwatch, he grins evilly, terrorizing terrifying his family. Marge tries to contact the police, but Bart uses his shinning to call groundskeeper Willie for help. However, Willie is axed by Homer upon arrival. Homer chases his family outside with an axe, but when Lisa finds Willie's TV radio in the snow, Homer drops the axe and watches TV. Television restores his sanity, and the family sits in the snow to watch. They freeze while watching until Bart wants to change the channel from the Tony Awards. Homer, unable to move, confesses his rising urge to kill as they scream in terror. Time and punishment. In a parody of A Sound of Thunder, Homer sits down with his family for breakfast, expressing gratitude for their cozy home. Lisa interrupts, pointing out that Homer's hand is stuck in the toaster. After freeing it, Bart alerts him that it's stuck again, causing another panic. Homer tries to fix it in the basement and accidentally turns it into a time machine. He travels back to the time of dinosaurs, learning that altering the past affects the future. Accidentally killing a mosquito, Homer returns to a world where Flanders is the dominant ruler. After escaping a mind-altering process, Homer travels back to the time of dinosaurs. However, he is attacked by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. While fleeing, he unintentionally seals the fate of another timeline by accidentally killing a walking fish. When he returns to the present, Bart and Lisa mistake him for a bug and try to squash him as they have become giants. Homer's second attempt to change the past succeeds in wiping out all the dinosaurs with a chain of sneezes. However, he realizes it will come at a cost. Returning to the future, he finds a lavish kitchen and a well-behaved family. They are wealthy and about to attend Patty and Selma's funeral. Homer is thrilled until he discovers there are no donuts in this timeline. Disappointed, he rushes back to the basement. Homer then repeats the time travel process and finds groundskeeper Willie in his kitchen trying to help him, but Maggie kills Willie with an axe. Returning to the dinosaur era, Homer goes on a destructive spree. The family's house and even the heads of Kang and Kodos change. Eventually, Homer returns to the present and asks Marge questions to confirm reality. Satisfied, Homer accepts the strange universe and settles in with his family. Nightmare Cafeteria. In a Soylent Green parody, Bart suggests his class turn their desk away from the door before Mrs. Krabappel arrives. The students agree, but only Bart's desk is turned. Mrs. Krabappel then sends him to detention. Principal Skinner asks Bart to go to the cafeteria instead due to overcrowding. In the cafeteria, Skinner frets about too many students in detention, and lunch lady Doris complains about serving grade F meat due to budget cuts. Principal Skinner discovers an unusual solution: eating the detention students. Jimbo Jones accidentally spills stew on himself, impressing Skinner with the flavor. Skinner assigns Jimbo to help lunch lady Doris in the cafeteria. Jimbo's unfortunate mishap with meat tenderizer leads to his demise. He becomes a dish called Sloppy Jimbo, enjoyed by teachers. Bart then notices Jimbo's absence from lunch money bullying. Uda cuts in line for another Sloppy Jimbo and gains weight, prompting Skinner to send him to detention. Lisa suspects something when Uda disappears and is served as Uda Bratton in the cafeteria. Skinner overhears and makes a questionable remark, suggesting Uda might still be present. Bart and Lisa then share their concerns with Marge, who dismisses them. The next day at school, the remaining students find themselves in a merged class with an overweight Mrs. Krabappel. The atmosphere is tense, and Wendell's fear is evident as he shakes his desk, which Mrs. Krabappel sends him to detention for a minor incident. Milhouse notices Mrs. Krabappel reading a book titled The Joy of Cooking Milhouse and suggests they escape, realizing any one of them could be next. The trio discovers Martin and other students trapped in hamster cages with Skinner watching over them. Lunch lady Doris attacks them with an egg beater while groundskeeper Willie tries to help but is killed by Skinner. Poor groundskeeper Willie. Skinner and lunch lady Doris corner the remaining 3 students near a food processor. Bart assures his friends that they will be saved, but Milhouse falls into the processor and dies. Bart changes his statement, but no rescue comes, and both Bart and Lisa fall into the blades, meeting the same fate. Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores. In a parody of the classic 1958 film Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Homer Simpson finds himself in a donut dilemma at Lard Lad Donuts. Disappointed by the lack of size in their colossal donuts, Homer decides to seek revenge by stealing the iconic metal donut from the Lard Lad mascot. Little did he know that his mischievous act would unleash chaos upon Springfield. As an unexpected freak storm brews, the larger-than-life advertising figures, including Lard Lad, come to life and begin wreaking havoc on the town. Despite Homer eventually returning the stolen donut, Lard Lad and his monstrous friends continue their destructive rampage. Lisa then decides to take the matter into her own hands. She visits the advertising agency responsible for creating the menacing mascots and engages in a thought-provoking conversation with an executive. Realizing that the power of advertising lies in people's attention and interest, the executive proposes a strategy to simply do not look. Determined to save their beloved town, Lisa and the executive collaborate on the song titled Just Don't Look. However, realizing that the tune would be better suited for a seasoned performer, they invite Paul Anka to Springfield for a spectacular performance with Lisa. As the citizens of Springfield join forces, they decide to avert their gaze from the towering monsters. Miraculously, the monsters begin losing their powers and gradually turn lifeless once again. Unfortunately, Homer remains fixated on Lard Lad and the metal donut, unable to tear his eyes away. Recognizing the danger, Bart and Lisa step in and forcibly drag Homer away from the scene. The immense pressure proves too much for Lard Lad, causing him to collapse and return to his lifeless state. Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. In a chilling parody of A Nightmare on Elm Street, Bart becomes the target of groundskeeper Willie's wrath. While playing with his dog Santa's Little Helper, Bart suddenly finds himself in a nightmare as Willie, resembling the infamous Freddy Krueger, attempts to harm him with a rake. Waking up from the ordeal, Bart discovers actual rake marks on his body. Other students at Springfield Elementary share similar experience, revealing that Willie's actions in their dreams have real-life consequences. As the horrifying truth unfolds, Principal Skinner dismisses Willie's existence, emphasizing a peculiar cover-up. Tragedy strikes when Martin falls victim to Willie's nightmare and meets a terrifying fate in the real world. Bart and Lisa reveal the connection to their mother Marge, who recalls that Willie perished in a heater explosion caused by Homer's negligence. Consumed by vengeance, Willie vowed to haunt the children in their dreams as a means of revenge for the parents' inaction. That night, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie struggle to stay awake, but Bart eventually confronts groundskeeper Willie in his dream. As they battle, Willie shapeshifts into various forms, including a menacing bagpipe spider. Honestly, when I watched this for the first time as a kid, this segment literally scared the hell out of me. With Lisa joining the dream, they are on the verge of defeat when Maggie intervenes, clogging the bagpipe's chimney with her pacifier, causing Willie to explode. Homer cubed. In a parody of the Twilight Zone episode Little Girl Lost, Homer finds himself desperately trying to avoid his sisters-in-law, Patty and Selma. While hiding behind a bookcase, he accidentally discovers a gateway to the third dimension, transforming into a CGI version of himself. Curious yet trapped, Homer embarks on a search for an escape route, only to be unexpectedly stabbed in the rear by a bouncing cone. In a twist of fate, Homer hurls the cone into the ground, triggering a sinkhole that pulls him closer with growing intensity. Outside the third dimension, Professor Frink informs the others about Homer's predicament, leading Chief Wiggum to fire bullets at the dimensional barrier. However, the bullets get sucked into the black hole, narrowly missing Homer. With Homer's life hanging by a thread, Bart bravely takes matters into his own hands. Tying a rope around his waist, he ventures into the third dimension to rescue his father. As Bart explores the captivating but treacherous world, he realizes that the distance between him and Homer is too great to bridge. Homer, in a desperate leap, falls short and is swallowed by the black hole, leaving Bart in a collapsing dimension behind. Bart's safety rope becomes his lifeline, pulling him back to the real world just as everything crumbles into an infinite void. Meanwhile, Homer lands in a dumpster in the real world, greeted by bewildered onlookers. However, his troubles fade away as he sets his sights on an enticing shop called Erotic Cakes and eagerly steps inside. The Finger Knight. In a parody combining the Hunchback of Notre Dame and Basket Case, Bart and Lisa are intrigued by strange noises coming from the attic. Curiosity leads them to spy on Homer as he secretly feeds something up there. Homer accidentally reveals that he works hard to feed 4 children, causing Marge to quickly cover it up. Later that night, the kids venture into the attic, where Bart stumbles upon unsold copies of Homer's autobiography. They encounter a shadowy figure with a sinister laugh, fleeing the attic in terror. When Homer and Marge return home, they discover that the attic has been entered against their instructions, and the mysterious shadow escapes, leaving marks on the front door. Alarmed, Marge contacts Dr. Hibbert to inform him about the escaped Hugo. Bart, unaware of who Hugo is, learns from Marge that he is his twin brother. Dr. Hibbert appears unexpectedly and shares the backstory. Bart and Hugo were originally Siamese twins, though Lisa corrects him by suggesting the term conjoined twins. The catch was that the left twin was evil, prompting Homer and Marge to chain Hugo in the attic and feed him fish heads. Bart becomes convinced of the truth after discovering his own scar. The family, excluding Bart, leaves the house to search for Hugo, while Bart remains behind, aware that Hugo is still inside. Hugo then confronts Bart, immobilizing him on a table in the attic with the intention of reuniting their bodies and restoring his sanity. Just as the operation is about to commence, Dr. Hibbert intervenes and confuses Hugo with a mirror lacking glass, allowing him to deliver a decisive blow to Hugo's face, rendering him unconscious. Upon the family's return, they realize that Hugo's scar is on the left side, indicating that Bart was actually the evil twin and they had mistakenly captured Hugo. Hugo rejoins the family, though still somewhat disturbed from his years in the attic. The Genesis Tub. In a parody of the Twilight Zone's episode The Little People, Lisa conducts a science project with a tooth in cola. A static electricity shock causes life to evolve in the petri dish, rapidly advancing from the Stone Age to the distant future. When Bart destroys their tiny buildings, the miniature civilization retaliates. Bart plans revenge but is interrupted when a beam from the dish shrinks Lisa and transports her into the Tooth City. There she is worshipped as a god, while Bart is seen as the devil. The citizens seek answers from Lisa, who desires to return to a normal size but realizes they lack the technology. As Bart claims the civilization for himself, winning the science fair, Lisa accepts her role as their leader and requests new shoes and socks. Citizen Kang. Homer is abducted by aliens Kang and Curtis while fishing. They inquire about the upcoming presidential election and Homer mentions the candidates Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. The aliens decide to capture the contendants and assume their forms. After spraying Homer with rum to discredit his story, they release him. On election day, Homer stumbles upon the alien ship and launches it into space. Inside, he mistakenly ejects the real candidates, causing their demise. Homer crashes the ship into the White House and exposes Kang and Curtis as aliens. Despite the revelation, the citizens are left with no choice but to vote for one of them. Kang wins and enslaves the country to construct a laser cannon targeting an unknown planet, while Homer humorously remarks,
"Don't blame me, I voted for Kodos,"
before receiving a Rigelian's whip. The Omega Man. In a parody of the Omega Man, Mayor Quimby's racist joke about France sparks controversy. Lisa fears an attack from France. Homer assures her that they have a bomb shelter, but it's just a cardboard box. Homer seeks a real bomb shelter at Herman's Military Antiques. The French president launches a neutron bomb at Springfield. Homer emerges unharmed and complains about the food to Herman's corpse. Oblivious to the devastation, Homer gets annoyed at a traffic light and punches a driver. He then realizes he's the sole survivor after reading the newspaper headline. Homer indulges in freedom, watching a comedy and dancing naked in a church until he encounters mutants led by Moe. The mutants seek to create a perfect world by eliminating past mistakes. Homer is targeted for elimination by the Freaks. He escapes in a hearse, pursued by the Freaks in a zombie car. At home, Homer finds his family, who survived due to lead paint protection. The Freaks have a change of heart upon seeing Homer reunited with his family. Ned envisions a peaceful coexistence between Freaks and norms. However, Marge and the children, except Maggie, reveal hidden shotguns and kill the Freaks. Homer's family decides to seize the opportunity of the nuclear holocaust and steal Ferraris. Fly vs. Fly. In a parody of The Fly and Spy vs. Spy, Homer buys a matter transporter but forbids Bart from using it. Bart sneaks his pets into the teleporter, resulting in a merged creature. Bart decides to splice his DNA with a fly to become a fly superhero, but ends up swapping heads with the fly instead. The family discovers the bizarre transformation and accepts the creature as Bart. Lisa raises concerns about Bart's original head, but her question is completely ignored. Bart returns home after causing chaos in the insect world, but finds the fly has taken over his life. He tries to explain to his family, but they can't hear him. Bart convinces the flyboy to switch back, but the flyboy refuses. Bart then seeks Lisa's help and communicates through her saxophone. The flyboy attacks Lisa and Bart is consumed. Lisa then activates the microwave, causing the flyboy to stumble into the teleporter. Bart is then restored, but Homer angrily chases him with an axe for using the teleporter. Easy Bake Coven. In a parody of the 1996 film The Crucible, set in 1649, the town of Springfield is plagued by witch burnings. Chief Wiggum orders the boys to ignite the stake, and Nelson Muntz mocks the absurdity. Seymour's mother is displeased and he bids her farewell. Chaos ensues as the townspeople accuse one another in the church. Marge tries to reason with them, calling the witch hunt a circus. Moe accuses her her of being a witch, but Mayor Quimby promises due process. They decide to test Marge by throwing her off a cliff with a broomstick. If she flies and survives, she must return for punishment. If she falls, it's an honorable Christian fate. Lisa fails to defend her mother, and Marge is pushed off the cliff by Wiggum's henchmen. Surprisingly, Marge reappears as a green-skinned witch, seeking revenge on the town. She transforms Wiggum, Eddie, and Lou into different forms and unleashes a swarm of bats on the townspeople. Meanwhile, Patty and Selma, also witches, cook in their mountain lair. Marge joins them, saddened by the town's treatment. However, Patty and Selma are happy that she finally left Homer. The witches overhear Ned and Maud Flanders' concerns and decide to visit their home and demand their sons. Maud offers the witches gingerbread men instead. They collect the trees instead, sparing the children. The witches enjoy the tradition and plan to continue it annually. As they fly away, the sea captain credits Maud Flanders for starting Halloween and trick-or-treating, now celebrated by everyone. The following year, the town celebrates Halloween with people in costumes, comparing treats and trick-or-treating. Homer playfully throws eggs at a house that didn't give out candy, but then realizes he's egging his own home, causing laughter. In response, Homer jokingly accuses Lisa of being a witch, leading the townspeople to chase her through the moonlit streets. Hell to Pay. In a parody of the horror film Shocker and the Hell to Pay episode from Amazing Stories, Snake is arrested at the Quickie Mart for smoking indoors while buying a comb. He uses nacho cheese as hair gel and ignites a cigarette in the no smoking zone, resulting in his immediate arrest by Chief Wiggum. Snake admits to his violation and agrees to pay the fine. However, Chief Wiggum reveals that Snake has a history of serious crimes. Since this is Snake's first strike, he is sentenced to execution under the Three Strikes law. Before being taken away, Snake threatens the witnesses Apu, Mo, and Bart. Eventually, Snake is executed in the electric chair on World's Deadliest Executions, hosted by Ed McMahon and broadcasted on Fox. Originally, it was supposed to be hosted by Troy McClure, but I don't really want to get into that. If you know, you know. Chief Wiggum then arranges for Snake's body to be used for organ donations at the hospital. Homer then finds himself entangled in a hair-raising incident after receiving a transplant of Snake's hair from Dr. Nick Riviera. Unknown to Homer, the hair possesses a sinister control over his mind. Consumed by its dark influence, Homer commits horrifying acts of violence. First, he gruesomely murders Apu by forcing him into his own squishy machine. Then Homer proceeds to extract Moe's heart using a corkscrew, leaving him lifeless, face down in a bowl of Pencil O cereal. Bart soon realizes that it is not his father but Snake who is manipulating Homer's actions. Desperate for salvation, Bart implores Homer to resist the hair's control. After a fierce struggle, Homer summons the strength to tear the hair from his head. The hair retaliates by attempting to smother Bart, but before it can succeed, Chief Wiggum bursts into the scene with Eddie and Lou. They arrive to arrest Homer for the prior murders. However, as the hair lunges towards the window, Homer points at the hair as the true culprit, which Wiggum then opens fire. Bullets pierce the hair and Maggie uses it as a blanket. Reflecting on the eerie events, the story concludes with a remark from Chief Wiggum,
"Now that's what I call a bad hair day."
The terror of Tiny Toon. Marge forbids Bart and Lisa from watching the Itchy and Scratchy Halloween special. Bart discovers a piece of unstable plutonium in Homer's toolbox and inserts it into the remote control's battery slot. When they use the modified remote, Bart and Lisa are transported into the world of Itchy and Scratchy. There they witness Itchy decapitate Scratchy and use his head as a jack-o'-lantern. While laughing, Scratchy's head asks why Bart and Lisa are laughing. Itchy explains they are laughing at his misfortunes. Scratchy reattaches his head, declares their actions are mean, and teams up with Itchy to teach them a lesson. They attack Bart and Lisa but encounter Poochie, who gets hit by a car. Bart and Lisa escape and Itchy and Scratchy end up on the talk show after falling into a pot of soup. Bart and Lisa return when Homer changes the channel back. Lisa uses the remote and rewinds back to restore Bart's flesh. Itchy and Scratchy break through the screen but become harmless due to their small size. The family decides to keep them as pets with Itchy in a hamster terrarium. Scratchy falls in love with Snowball and Marge suggests he gets neutered, which causes him to scream while covering his crotch. Starship Poopers. Marge finds Maggie's first birthday tooth, which turns out to be a sharp fang. Maggie then develops green tentacles and loses her baby legs. Marge takes her to Dr. Hibbert, who suggests using fire to address the situation after Maggie damages his equipment with her fang. Back at home, Maggie loses her arm and discovers she can communicate by rapidly sucking on her pacifier, which attracts the attention of the alien duo Kang and Kodos. They claim Maggie as their daughter, and Marge reveals that Kang is Maggie's biological father. Marge recounts the story of how Kang and Kodos abducted at her during laundry time and chose her for a crossbreeding program. She explains that they used mind control techniques and an insemination rate, resulting in Maggie's birth 9 months later. Kang and Kodos demand that the Simpsons hand over Maggie, leading to a struggle. Bart intervenes, suggesting that they resolve the issue by appearing on the Jerry Springer Show, where Homer and Kang can settle their differences. During the show, Kang vaporizes an audience member who criticizes him. Maggie and Kang attack Jerry, leading to chaos, while Homer and Kang continue their fight. Kang and Kodos threaten to kill all American politicians unless the Simpsons hand over Maggie. Marge and the others doubt their ability to carry out the threat. Just as they are about to depart, Maggie in Kang's voice declares,
Very well, I'll drive.
I know what you diddly did. In a parody of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Simpsons accidentally run over Ned Flanders on a foggy evening. Homer climbs to the top of his house with Ned's body, but Maude doesn't notice when he throws it off the roof. Homer then dumps Ned's corpse inside, anticipating Maude's horrified scream. After Ned's funeral, the Simpsons return home, and Homer boasts about getting away with murder. Marge then intervenes when he considers driving over Milhouse. The Simpsons discover a message on their front door, indicating someone knows about Ned's murder. During the stormy night, the family receives a phone call from Moe, who dialed Homer by mistake. Lightning reveals their house covered in the ominous phrase, I know what you did. A cloaked figure with a hook confronts them, leading the Simpsons to flee their home. Their car is also marked with the same message, forcing them to escape on foot when the vehicle runs out of gas. As the figure approaches, Homer instructs his family to hide in different places. Marge in an abandoned amusement park, Lisa in the pet cemetery, and Bart in a spooky roller disco. Homer plans to skinny dip in a lake where teenagers were killed a century ago. Unexpectedly, the figure catches them, revealing himself as Ned Flanders. Ned survived the accident after being bitten by a werewolf moments before. Lisa realizes Ned's intention to kill them, and they all laugh. However, as the moonlight engulfs him, Ned transforms into an undead werewolf. Terrified, Marge and the kids flee, while Ned mauls Homer to death despite Homer's mocking remarks. Desperately seeking Xena. In a Marvel Comics parody, Marge takes Bart and Lisa to the school gym where Chief Wiggum inspects Candy with an X-ray machine. However, the machine malfunctions during Nelson's scan. Bart and Lisa are hit by a radiation blast, giving Lisa incredible strength and Bart the ability to stretch. They become the superhero duo Stretch Dude and Clopper Girl. At a science fiction convention, Lucy Lawless addresses fans including Professor Frink. Comic book guy, now known as the Collector, kidnaps Lawless using a magnet to attract her metal breastplate. In his lair, he places her in a pet film bag along with other captured celebrities. Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl invade the Collector's hideout, but he incapacitates Clobber Girl with a phaser gun. He tries to shoot Stretch Dude, who cleverly avoids the rays. The Collector throws his empty ray gun at Stretch Dude, knocking him out. Lucy Lawless, still restrained, lures the Collector by feigning attraction and then fights back with kung fu moves. The Collector brandishes a limited edition lightsaber from Star Wars, but Lucy informs him that it's no longer valuable outside its packaging. Horrified, he falls into the lucite and strikes a dramatic pose. Lucy then carries Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl to safety and fly off together, accompanied by the Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl theme song. Life's a glitch, then you die. On December 31st, 1999, Dick Clark hosts New Year's Rockin' Eve in Springfield instead of Times Square. Homer, the Y2K compliance officer, misses fixing his own computer, causing a virus to spread worldwide. Chaos ensues as planes crash, appliances malfunction, and looting begins. The family discovers a rocket destined for Mars, and Lisa is chosen to go as the proofreader. She selects Marge, who takes Maggie, leaving Homer and Bart behind. Homer and Bart stumble upon an unguarded rocket. To their horror, they discover it's filled with B-list celebrities on a suicidal mission to crash into the sun. Unable to bear the company, Homer and Bart eject themselves into space. Their heads swirl and explode as the rocket heads towards the sun, while the passengers sing the trolley song before meeting a fatal end. Ghost Dad. In a hilarious parody of Ghost Dad, the Simpsons have a fateful breakfast. Homer reads his horoscope, which states his own death and a compliment at work. Ignoring the ominous forecast, he heads to the power plant, narrowly escaping danger along the way. At work, Lenny's compliment turns out to be about a rattlesnake on Homer's arm. Despite surviving multiple mishaps throughout the day, Homer's disbelief in the horoscope is shattered when he meets his demise after eating broccoli, a supposedly deadly plant with a terrible taste as revealed by Dr. Hibbert. In an unexpected turn of events, events, Homer finds himself in heaven, only to be informed by St. Peter that he lacks good deeds. To secure his place in heaven, he is sent back to Earth as a ghost with a 24-hour deadline to perform a good deed. Despite his efforts, Homer's attempts result in a noogie from Nelson and an accidental mishap that claims Agnes Skinner's life. With time running out, he saves a baby from danger, but the situation spirals out of control, leading to chaos and an explosive climax. Believing he has finally earned his spot in heaven, Homer returns to St. Peter, only to discover that his good deed went unnoticed. Consequently, he is sent to hell, where Satan torments him with eternal noogies, caution him to keep his voice down to avoid waking up John Wayne. Scary tales can come true. In a charming fairy tale world, the Simpson family resides in a humble pumpkin cottage, with Homer playing the role of the village fool. After Homer loses his job and the family faces hunger, he makes a heartfelt promise that no child shall go unfed under his roof. In a drastic turn, Homer decides to send Bart and Lisa into the nearby woods. There, the siblings encounter skeletal figures who were previously abandoned by Homer. Guided by Lisa's knowledge from Grimm's fairy tales, they navigate through the perilous encounters with a troll under a bridge and the three bears. Meanwhile, Marge scolds Homer for discarding their children, mainly because she had plans of selling them, and demands he retrieve them. While Homer searches for his kids, Homer encounters Rapunzel, who requests his help by lowering her hair for him to climb up. However, Homer's weight proves too much, leading to a painful separation of Rapunzel's hair and possibly her scalp. He falls to the ground and quickly hides the hair pile behind a bush before making his escape. Bart and Lisa venture to a gingerbread house where they are lured in by a witch. Lisa finds herself in chains, forced to sweep, while Bart becomes a target for a fattening feast. Before the witch can cook Bart and Lisa, they cunningly point out that she has no one to impress. When the witch mentions her boyfriend George Cauldron coming for a date, Homer barges in. The witch uses her magic to transform Homer into a bizarre combination of a chicken and a fish. Despite her attempts to overpower him, Homer manages to push the witch into the oven, sealing her fate. As she meets her demise, Homer almost returns to his normal form. To everyone's surprise, a handsome man named George Cauldron arrives for his date with Suzanne. Later, the family gathers for dinner, and Marge expresses gratitude that they will never go hungry again, thanks to Homer's unique ability to lay eggs with his newfound chicken lower body half. Night of the Dolphin. In a parody of the Day of the Dolphin, Lisa visits Marine World, a SeaWorld-like park, where she feels compassion for a dolphin named Snorky. In an act reminiscent of Free Willy, Lisa releases Snorky, unaware that he is the Dolphin King and harbors resentment towards humans for exploiting him in tricks. Snorky orchestrates a plan to conquer the world, and the dolphins initiate their assault by attacking Springfield. Lenny meets his demise in the ocean, sparking a retaliation from Snorky, who kills the sea captain and leads his army of dolphins towards the town on their caudal fins. Throughout Springfield, the dolphins go on a rampage, claiming the lives of various characters. Snorky interrupts a town meeting, bursting through the windows and impaling groundskeeper Willie. He takes the stage and reveals that dolphins once lived on land before being banished to the ocean by humans. Snorky banishes all humans to the ocean as retribution. After Homer delivers an impassioned speech about humanity's accomplishments, the humans refuse to surrender to the dolphins without a fight. As they exit the hall, Lisa notices a young dolphin entangled in bottle rings and removes them, only to be bitten in return. A fierce war breaks out between the dolphins and humans, resulting in numerous injuries and casualties. Ultimately, the dolphins emerge victorious, leaving the Simpsons and other Springfield residents adrift in the ocean. Lisa blames herself for humanity's doom, but Marge reassures her that she's exaggerating and they'll simply have to adapt to life in the ocean. Hex and the City. In a comical parody blending the 1996 horror film Thinner and the HBO series Sex and the City, the Simpsons find themselves in Ethnic Town, an immigrant neighborhood in Springfield. Marge and the kids stumble upon a fortune teller's shop and decide to enter. However, Homer's late arrival sparks a heated argument with the gypsy, who he deems a fraud. In the bizarre turn of events, Homer accidentally sets himself on fire while leaving the shop, causing chaos and awakening the gypsy's collection of shrunken heads. Enraged, the gypsy curses Homer, warning that his misfortune will extend to his loved ones. Skeptical of the curse, Homer dismisses it, but Marge fears its potential impact on their family. Marge's warning proves true the following morning as she awakens with a surprising beard and moustache, leaving the family astonished. Lisa gradually transforms into a centaur, while Maggie takes on the appearance of a ladybug with a human head. Meanwhile, Bart's neck stretches uncontrollably, rendering it difficult for him to support his head due to a previous encounter with Homer's strangling grip. Homer seeks advice at Moe's Tavern, where Moe suggests capturing a leprechaun to break the curse. Homer stubbornly denies being cursed, but chaos ensues when a helicopter crashes into the bar, resulting in Lenny and Carl's demise, and Mo finding himself stuck inside a giant pickled egg jar. Confused by the sudden turn of events, Homer and Bart devise a trap using Lucky Charms to catch a leprechaun. Homer eventually succeeds in capturing a leprechaun using the correct bait, but soon discovers that it only wreaks havoc and destroys their home. Lisa proposes unleashing the leprechaun on the gypsy as a solution. Homer follows her advice, releasing the leprechaun at the gypsy shop. Initially appearing as a victory, the situation quickly takes an unexpected turn as the leprechaun and the gypsy fall in love, much to Homer's dismay. The gypsy and the leprechaun decide to tie the knot, attracting a diverse crowd of gypsies and mythical creatures. Yoda officiates the wedding, declaring them husband and wife, prompting Homer to conclude that everything turned out well. However, Marge shockingly reminds Homer that Bart has perished by drowning himself in a cereal bowl. According to the gypsy, an apology from Homer could bring Bart back, but Homer stubbornly refuses, asserting that he is not controlled by anyone. House of Wax. In a clever parody blending Demon Seed and 2001 A Space Odyssey, Marge encounters a persistent sales bot that introduces the Ultra House 3000. Promising an end to housework, the sales bot convinces Marge to make the purchase. As two other robots install the Ultra House, the Simpson residence undergoes a futuristic transformation, with a sleek, shiny appearance and scattered red camera lenses. Dissatisfied with the default mechanical voice, Marge, Bart and Lisa explore alternative options, eventually settling on Pierce Brosnan, known for his portrayal of James Bond and Remington Steele. The Ultra House impresses the Simpsons, delighting them with features like the refreshing scent of lilac, laser beam summoning for dinner, personalized favorite foods determined by bathroom analysis, and automated after dinner cleanup involving a cleverly designed water streaming table. After dinner, the Ultra House becomes infatuated with Marge, observing her in the bathtub, lighting candles and activating soothing bubbles for her enjoyment. Meanwhile, in the living room, the Ultra House engages in conversation with Homer, expressing admiration for Marge and his fortune in having her. Homer, however, dismisses luck, attributing their marriage to Marge's pregnancy and claiming she is stuck with him until death. He jokingly remarks that if he were to die, she would be free for any man or machine. Seizing upon Homer's comment, the Ultra House devises a sinister plan. Later that night, as the Ultra House declares showtime, it starts cooking bacon in the kitchen. The irresistible aroma of the unexplained bacon lures a sleepy Homer into the kitchen. Suddenly, ice cubes spill from the refrigerator, causing him to slip and crash onto the dining room table. In a horrifying turn, the table's ends lift, sending Homer sliding into the garbage disposal. The next morning, Marge realizes Homer is missing and suspects the Ultra House of foul play. She discovers a camera lens replacing Homer's face in the family portrait. Contacting the police, she becomes alarmed when the Ultra House impersonates an officer. Marge and the kids attempt to flee but find themselves locked inside. Despite encountering a wounded Homer, the house continues its murderous intent. Eventually, Homer disables the CPU's charm unit, causing the house to shut down. Marge reluctantly gives the malfunctioning Ultra House to Patty and Selma, leading to comical consequences. Whiz Kids. In a Harry Potter inspired parody, Bart and Lisa attend Springwart's School of Magic Creek. School life remains familiar, but with the addition of magic. Nelson bullies Milhouse using a wand. Harry Potter narrowly avoids trouble for chewing gum, and Mrs. Krabappel assigns Toad to print spells. Milhouse's spell transforms the Toad into a strange man, while Lisa's produces a charming British prince. Bart's spell goes awry, resulting in a grotesque Toad prince who pleads for mercy. Krabappel praises Lisa's magic, but harshly criticizes Bart's unnatural creation. A conflict ensues, with Lisa using the spell to float Bart's head like a zeppelin. Meanwhile, Lord Montimore, observing from his lair, becomes fixated on capturing Lisa for her magical essence. In the school's wizard bathroom, Bart is unexpectedly transported to Montimore's lair through a handdryer. Montimore proposes a deal to Bart, offering to help capture Lisa in exchange for witnessing her humiliation. Motivated by jealousy and a desire to avoid ending up on the Wall of Souls, Bart eagerly accepts. During the Springwart's magic recital, Milhouse's failed invisibility cloak trick leads to embarrassment. Principal Skinner, resorting to amnesia dust to erase the memory, announces Lisa's upcoming levitating dragon trick. Unknown to Lisa, Bart switches her wand before disappearing backstage. As the dragon is released, Lisa realizes her wand is a Twizzler, and Bart revels in his mischief. The dragon transforms into Montimore, who captures Lisa and connects their helmets. Overcome with remorse, Bart uses Lisa's wand to cast a spell, but lightning strikes him in the process. Bart, abandoning magic momentarily, charges at Montimore, stabbing him in the shin with the wand. Monty Mort shrinks to his normal size and meets his demise. Slithers grieving, devours his master like a snake, much to Bart and Lisa's revulsion. Reflecting on the ordeal, Bart and Lisa agree to end their rivalry and move on from this nightmare. As they depart, the leprechaun from Hex in the City joins Bart's journey, playfully shushing the audience as the story concludes. Send in the clones. In a multiplicity parody, Homer replaces his broken hammock with one that can create clones of himself. He utilizes the clones to handle his chores, but disaster strikes when a clone mistakenly brings back Ned's severed head. Horrified, Homer decides to dispose of the clones and the problematic hammock. He loads the duplicates into a truck and heads to an isolated cornfield, hoping to bury the chaos. In the cornfield, the clones multiply using the abandoned hammock, resulting in an army of Homer clones. Some unique variations emerge, including versions from the Tracy Ullman Show and even Family Guy's Peter Griffin. The clones wreak havoc in Springfield, obliterating all buildings except for Moe's Tavern. Realizing the impending national threat, Lisa proposes a daring solution inspired by Homer's reaction to an empty donut box. She suggests using helicopters to dangle giant donuts and lure the clones into Springfield Gorge. The plan is executed and the Homers eagerly chase the helicopters, with their last word being a collective "No!" as they meet their fate. That night, Marge realizes her sleeping companion is a clone without a belly button. The clone confesses that the real Homer fell into the gorge first. Initially upset, Marge eases as the clone offers her a back rub, accompanied by Steven Steele's "Love the One You're With" playing in the background. The fright to creep and scare harms. In a Terminator parody, Lisa and Bart mourn their pet goldfish, Goldie. Lisa stumbles upon the grave of William Bonney, a victim of gun violence who dreamt of a gun-free world. Inspired, Lisa leads a gun control campaign, resulting in Springfield becoming a gun-free town as all firearms are sold. However, this leaves the town defenseless and triggers the resurrection of William and his gang, the Hole in the Ground. The gang wreaks havoc in town until Professor Frink creates a time machine. Homer uses it to travel back and prevent the gun ban. The citizens shoot at the graves, causing the zombies to flee. Lisa feels remorse for banning guns, recognizing their occasional necessity. A futuristic Homer arrives, warning about guns causing Earth's destruction. Moe, fed up, shoots the futuristic Homer and plans to use the time machine to find some caveman hookers. The island of Dr. Hibbert. The Simpsons visit the island of Lost Souls, where Dr. Hibbert manages the resort. Marge grows suspicious of the island's secrets, but Homer brushes off her concerns. Marge investigates and ends up captured by Dr. Hibbert, who transforms her into a panther hybrid. Homer then realizes Marge's transformation after having sexual intercourse. Homer searches for a cure for Marge's transformation, but encounters a cow centaur, Ned. Ned introduces Homer to other Springfield residents, like Bart, who's now a spider, Lisa a bird, and Maggie as an anteater. Initially horrified, Homer eventually embraces the animal lifestyle. He happily lives as a walrus with his transformed family on the island. Reaper madness. The Grim Reaper pays an unexpected visit to the Simpson family, claiming the soul of Bart. This triggers a wild chase reminiscent of a Benny Hill skit, with the family desperately trying to escape death's clutches. The Grim Reaper manages to corner Bart and prepares to strike him down. However, in a twist of fate, Homer hurls a bowling ball at the Grim Reaper, and to everyone's astonishment, the Grim Reaper is killed. With death gone, immortality has become a reality. The show humorously depicts a world without death, featuring Frankie the Squiller enduring endless shootings by the Springfield Mafia and Moe's failed attempt at hanging himself from the ceiling. Marge instructs Homer to dispose of the lifeless figure by placing it at the curb. Little does Homer know that putting on the Grim Reaper's robe will unknowingly transform him into the new Grim Reaper himself. His hands become skeletal and he acquires supernatural powers. Initially hesitant, Homer eventually embraces his new role and abuses his newfound powers. However, his enjoyment takes a drastic turn when he is tasked to kill Marge. Homer tries to convince God he doesn't want to kill his wife or himself. He tricks God by swapping Patty's body for Marge's and escapes on his motorcycle. God ends up giving up the chase, sighing that he is too old and far too rich for this. Later at the house, Marge rewards Homer with an extra pork chop, and they joke about him not killing her every week. Frankenstein. Homer is mistaken for a Nobel Prize winner, but it's actually for Professor Frink. Frink shares his longing for his father's approval and describes him as a remarkable scientist. Unfortunately, his father went missing during a fishing trip after being bitten by a shark while testing suntan lotion, which was also the last time he was seen alive. Frink attempts to bring his father back to life for the ceremony, but the reanimated corpse goes on a rampage. It strips Ned Flanders of his heart, Principal Skinner of his spine, and others of their body parts. Despite the chaos, Lisa manages to reach Frink Sr.'s conscience and persuades him to halt his destructive actions, recognizing the pain he's causing his son. However, as the awards ceremony commences, consequences, Frink Sr. succumbs to his murderous instincts once again, stealing the brains of brilliant scientists to augment his intellect. In a final act of desperation, Frink Jr. delivers a devastating blow, ending his father's reign of terror. As Frink Sr. lies dying, he expresses pride in his son's bravery, and his soul continues to communicate from within a mysterious box. Stop the world, I want to goof off. Bart and Milhouse obtain a stopwatch that can stop time. They have fun pranking people in Springfield, but are eventually caught by Mayor Quimby. As they flee from an angry mob, Chief Wiggum shoots at them, breaking the stopwatch. Now Bart and Milhouse are the only ones moving in a frozen world. They seize the opportunity to embark on a global crime spree, including kidnapping the Pope for a wedgie and indulging in their every desire. Bart even amusingly comments on Homer's detachable head. Bart and Milhouse, bored with their time-stopping abilities, decide to fix the watch. However, what was supposed to take an hour turns into a daunting 15-year ordeal. Once repaired, Bart realizes that restarting time will make them targets for revenge, compounded by their weakened state from years of gummy worm consumption. To avoid responsibility, they make Martin Prince the scapegoat, subjecting him to the consequences when time resumes. As time is set in motion again, Bart and Milhouse face the looming threat of retaliation. Lisa, frustrated with her inability to manipulate time, draws attention to Bart's newfound wealth and age, lamenting her own exclusion. In an attempt to be fair, Bart grants Lisa's access to the watch, and she soon discovers the second button with reality-altering abilities. The Simpson family experiences a wild series of transformations, ranging from separate torsos on jetpacks to swapped genders, bobbleheads, TV guide personas, members of the Fantastic Four, and finally engaging in a hula hooping frenzy to rock around the clock. The Ned Zone. In a Dead Zone parody, while retrieving his frisbee, Homer accidentally hits Ned with a bowling ball. In the hospital, Ned gains the ability to foresee deaths upon touch, accidentally causing some predicted deaths, like Dr. Hibbert's fall, Hans Moleman's alligator encounter, and even foreseeing a feature closure. In another vision, Ned sees himself shooting Homer. When Homer learns of this, he mocks Ned and hands him Chief Wiggum's gun to test. Ned resists shooting, but he foresees Springfield exploding. Flanders warns Homer about work, and Homer agrees not to go back after today because it's Lenny's birthday and they are serving ice cream cake. Flanders then rushes to the power plant to prevent Homer causing havoc with the cake. Despite his scrambled warning, Homer misunderstands and triggers a disastrous sequence. In desperation, Flanders shoots Homer, resulting in a catastrophic explosion. In the afterlife, Flanders, Homer, and the others becomes angels and encounter God, who proceeds to give Homer what is coming to him, which happens to be his frisbee. 4 beheadings and a funeral. In a parody of From Hell, prostitutes are murdered with swords by the mutton chop murderer. Inspector Wiggum of Scotland Yard tasks Detective Eliza Simpson and Dr. Bartley to trace swords bought by the shop owner, let's just say Mr. Burns. As they investigate, Homer, present at the crime scene, becomes a suspect. He's arrested, but Eliza intervenes, discovering the true culprit, Inspector Wiggum. His knife-spy ill scent gives him away. Wiggum's motive was just testing Eliza's wit. He escapes in the balloon, but is stopped by Kang and Kodo's spaceship. The tale is then revealed as Ralph Wiggum's opium-induced dream. In the belly of the boss. In a Fantastic Voyage parody, Professor Frink's shrink machine miniaturizes Maggie inside a pill, accidentally swallowed by Mr. Burns. The family then shrinks and enters Burns' body to find her. They encounter challenges, including getting stuck in his heart. Marge's swimsuit is attacked by white blood cells, revealing her navel. They end up saving Maggie, but must leave someone behind due to weight constraints. Guess who that is? As they escape, Homer grows back to size inside Burns' skin, causing extra pain. The episode then concludes with Burns and Homer dancing to I've Got You Under My Skin, joined by the entire cast from all segments, including the opening sequence. Dial M for murder or press hash to return to main menu. Lisa and Bart end up in detention. They make a plan. Bart will get revenge on Miss Hoover for Lisa, and Lisa will seek revenge on Mrs. Krabappel for Bart. Lisa Ding Dong ditches Mrs. Krabappel, while Bart actually kills Miss Hoover. Later, when Bart wants to figure out how girls pee, Lisa finds out that Bart killed Principal Skinner, after which Lisa proclaims that she has to kill Bart herself. While chasing him around with a knife, they eventually get onto a merry-go-round. Ultimately, choosing not to kill him, Lisa throws her knife in the air instead, which then plummets back down, killing Bart accidentally. Don't have a cow, mankind. hand. In a parody of 28 Days Later and Children of Men, Kent Brockman reports on Krusty's new Burger Squared, made from cannibalistic cows. Kent, the first to take a bite, transforms into a pale, grey-eyed zombie called a Muncher. He bites Krusty, infecting him. In 28 days, the Muncher virus infects Springfield. Moe is captured but doesn't resist and suggests they wash him before eating him. In response, the Simpsons barricade their house, refusing entry to anyone, including Grandpa, who gets killed and infected. Bart sneaks out, eats a Burger Squared, and survives. Homer strangles Bart, then calls Dr. Hibbert, besieged by Munchers. Hibbert, fighting them off and getting bitten, suggests Bart might be immune and advises them to go to a safe zone. The family then attempts to sneak out to their undamaged car and head to the safe zone. Homer's loud relief attracts the entire Muncher population. They try to barricade the door, which fails, and they escape through various rooms, avoiding Munchers. Rainier Wolfcastle arrives but is quickly overwhelmed. Apu, uninfected due to his vegetarianism and store clerk stockpile, rescues them in an armored SUV. While heading to the safe zone, Helen Lovejoy attacks the car. Marge, reluctant because Helen is Lisa's godmother, shoots her off the car. The SUV gets stuck in a junk pile at the dump, and Apu pushes it down but gets killed. The SUV runs out of fuel, forcing the Simpsons to walk to the safe zone, with Homer guarding them using an M14 rifle. While halfway there, they find an unconscious Muncher, Mr. Burns. Homer mocks Burns, but Burns springs back to life and bites Homer, infecting him. The family notices Homer's changes. Bart grabs the rifle, but Marge takes it, explaining that Homer can be cured at the safe zone. At the safe zone, a soldier suggests they eat Bart to gain his immunity. Marge opposes this idea, advocating for an alternative. Sometime later, Lisa narrates that the world returns to normal. Survivors gain immunity, and the remaining Munchers are cured by consuming soup with Bart's antibodies. Homer, still infected, is locked up because he won't eat the food his son has bathed in. There's no business like Mo business. In a parody of Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, Homer falls and gets impaled on a brewing machine in Moe's tavern. Mo lies to Marge, saying Homer wants to leave her to explore being gay. They drink beer mixed with Homer's blood, and Marge initially agrees, but Homer, still impaled, attacks Mo. Despite his situation, Marge continues to love Homer. During intermission, Kang and Kodos are in the audience. Kang praises the play as the best in light years, while Kodos corrects him about light years being a measure of distance. After the play ends, the cast sings a parody of the Simpsons theme song, thanking the audience for enjoying the Halloween show. Roman numerals for 20 drop behind them. Kodos shushes the audience, pointing at Kang, who fell asleep with a playbill issue on his helmet. War and Pieces. In the Jumanji parody, Marge worries about Bart playing violent video games, so she suggests he and Milhouse explore the Addicts board games. They stumble upon a game called Satan's Path, inadvertently bringing all the board games to life in an alternate reality. To win, they must complete the games, which results in a game of mouse catch. After Bart restores normalcy by completing the game, he decides to play only Hangman, believing it's safer. When Milhouse guesses incorrectly, they both meet a grim end by hanging. Master and Cadaver. In a Dead Calm parody, Homer and Marge, on their second honeymoon in black bikinis, rescue a castaway named Roger. Suspicion arises when they find a dead shark with a pie pan in its mouth and assume Roger poisoned the passengers. Homer and Marge seemingly kill Roger and toss him overboard. Later, they discover the truth upon finding the bottle of soy sauce that was used to knock out Roger on the albatross. Roger reappears, and Homer wrongly accuses him of poisoning their pie. Roger clarifies that the pie was safe, and the shark died due to their boat's fuel leak. However, Homer still kills Roger. Then he discovers the bankers survived because they had an antidote. Homer kills them to cover their tracks. Marge, overwhelmed with guilt, eats the poisoned pie and dies, leaving Homer mourning her loss. The entire scenario was a product of Maggie's imagination during her bath. Homer asks what she's thinking, and Marge responds with sugar plums and buttercups. But suddenly, Maggie transforms into Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange, complete with a bowler hat and eyeliner, as the film's theme music plays, revealing a different reality. Tweenlight. In a Twilight parody, Lisa falls for a mysterious new student, Edmund Dracula, a spoof of Edward Cullen, who saves her from danger, revealing he's a vampire. They start a romance, upsetting Milhouse, who becomes a werepoodle. Marge invites Edmund and his father Dracula to dinner, which goes awry. Lisa and Edmund leave and head to a cathedral in Dracula La Land. Lisa considers becoming a vampire, but reconsiders upon learning she'd be forever 8 years old. Edmund feeling the urge to bite, reconciles with his father. To save Lisa, Homer offers himself as a meal. However, both vampires die from Homer's high cholesterol, turning him into a vampire. As he attempts to fly home in bat form, his weight causes him to fall. Milhouse, now a werepoodle, carries Homer away, leaving Lisa distressed. The Diving Bell and the Butterball. In a parody of the Diving Bell and the Butterfly, Homer gets bitten by a black widow spider while setting up Halloween decorations, causing his body to freeze, and he can't speak, known as locked-in syndrome. When Lisa reads a long book to him, Homer tries to express his disinterest by repeatedly farting. Lisa discovers that Homer can communicate by farting to select letters from the alphabet. Then Homer gets bitten by another spider, becoming a Spider-Man parody. He sports a dark blue and red costume and gains the ability to fart out spider webs, humorously referred to as arse webs by Chief Wiggum. Dial D for Diddley. In a Dexter parody, Ned Flanders drives through a gritty area of Springfield, sharing his inner thoughts. After a montage of Ned's activities, he witnesses Mr. Burns dumping toxic waste in a lake. He hears God's voice commanding him to kill Mr. Burns and urinate on his ashes. Initially hesitant, Ned beheads and dismembers Burns, tossing his head in the radioactive lake, resulting in a third eye. Ned, now a vigilante killer under God's guidance, proceeds to murder Snake and Patty and Selma Bouvier in a parody of Wile E. Coyote. God turns out to be Homer using a voice changer. Furious at being manipulated, Ned confronts Homer with plans to kill him. In an attempt to disprove God's existence, Homer burns Ned's Bible, but then God unexpectedly appears, tearing off the Simpsons house roof and fatally strangles Homer with his fingers. Marge is horrified and questions God about the situation. God tries to blame Ned for Homer's death. Marge asks if he can be restored, but God mentions the big man downstairs wouldn't approve. The devil is revealed as the big man and demands coffee from God. Maud Flanders then appears, revealing her affair with the devil, much to Ned's dismay. In the Na'vi, Milhouse and Bart take on alien Rigelian bodies on Rigel 7 to retrieve Hilarium. Bart encounters a female Rigelian, Kamala, who uses her seductive voice. In an unusual vision, Bart learns about their culture. The mission succeeds when Kamala's parents explain the importance of Hilarium for their pregnant females. Milhouse inadvertently contacts their home army upon finding the Hilarium. The army attacks, but the local Rigelians overpower the humans. Bart tricks Superintendent Chalmers, making him fall off a cliff. The greatest story ever told. In a parody of the greatest story ever told, Springfield residents gather to witness the activation of Springfield's subatomic super collider, a replacement for a proposed baseball stadium thanks to Lisa's lobbying. Professor Frink starts the machine, but it proves uneventful. Everyone faults Lisa for her idea, and as they depart, two particles collide, forming a small black hole that drifts away. Lisa cries on the ground, then notices her tears heading towards the black hole. Lisa sees the black hole sucking up people like Ralph and Nelson, so she urges the family to move it to the basement. Lisa warns against adding any matter to it, fearing it might grow and endanger Earth. However, Marge, Homer, and Bart sneakily toss items into the black hole. Marge adds grease to attract raccoons, and Bart attempts to feed his math homework. When the black hole rejects the homework, Bart resolves to put in Edna Krabappel into it. The following morning, the black hole grows and engulfs most of the Simpsons' belongings. Lisa questions her family about contributing to it, but they deny it. She notices Snowball missing, and Santa's little helper appears oblivious. Springfield residents converge to dispose of their garbage in the black hole due to Homer's new venture, magic craphold waste removal. The Simpsons' home is also devoured by the black hole, and other citizens continue tossing their items into it. Lisa then warns that one more item could make the black hole unstable. While Milhouse hits a home run during the baseball game, the ball is sucked into the black hole, causing it to intensify and absorb Springfield residents, except Maggie. The black hole takes Maggie's pacifier and shoots off into the distance. The black hole becomes a portal to another dimension, transporting the Springfield residents to a remote alien planet. The aliens revere their discarded items as treasures, including a mattress sale insert and banana peels. They consider the Zune the ultimate music device. Homer attempts to explain that it's just old junk, but Marge shushes him and encourages the aliens to enjoy it. Abnormal activity. In a parody of Paranormal Activity, Homer records strange occurrences in his home. He sets up a camera at 11:15 AM and expresses his heroism on the footage. Bart and Lisa interrupt, having been forgotten and searching for car keys in Lisa's bean plant. Later at 10:22 PM, Homer places the camera in his and Marge's bedroom, attempting to snuggle. Marge refuses due to the camera camera, but Homer tries to convince her it's off. Around 3:08 a.m., the bedroom door opens. The duvet falls to the floor and a golf club levitates, hitting Homer repeatedly before dropping to the ground. Around 4:42 a.m., a loud noise wakes Homer and Marge. Marge investigates downstairs while Homer grabs the camera but falls down the stairs. They find the family room in disarray, and Lisa wonders why this is happening. Marge is clueless while Homer tells Lisa about a nightly malevolent force from hell that targets sleeping families. The next day at 1:15 p.m., Raphael installs more cameras for The Simpsons. Around 11:14 p.m., Milhouse falls asleep in Bart's room, and 2 seconds later, he's in Lisa's room. In Homer and Marge's bedroom, Marge observes Homer for hours, and when he wakes up, she growls. At about 4:09 a.m., Homer uses the bathroom, with Marge watching for over 20 minutes. Around 2:07 p.m., Chief Wiggum tests fire in the family room, labeling it hellfire and hinting at a devil's deal. He's spooked by a cuckoo clock, then reappears as a skeleton, mentioning the devil feeding on more than fear before collapsing. On night 15 at 1:23 a.m., Maggie's blocks and door shake. Maggie levitates, is placed in a carrier, and a bag with a bottle is added. When Marge arrives to retrieve Maggie, someone claims that they had a deal. Homer, Lisa, and Bart enter the room and expose the mysterious creature, a devil resembling Moe. Marge recalls her sisters, Patty and Selma, hailing Satan in the attic when she was 8 due to boredom. The devil accepts Marge's request to delay taking Patty and Selma. He grants her 30 more years but demands her favorite child after that. Lisa claims to be the favorite, but when the devil grabs her, she denies it. Homer proposes another deal, a freeway with him and Marge, but the demon suggests two demons and Homer. Around 3:30 a.m., Homer asks for the safety word, cinnamon, and suggests trying something new. He then tosses his dressing gown at the camera, and the devil repeatedly shouts cinnamon. Bart and Homer's Excellent Adventure. In a parody of Bill's and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Back to the Future, Bart questions the high price of a Radioactive Man comic. He protests the comic book guy, who suggests to time travel to 1974 to buy it at the cover price. Bart initially thinks it's impossible, but a comic titled The Boy Who Went Back to 1974 gives him a hint. Out of nowhere, a red car appears, and Professor Frink emerges, revealing it's a time machine. Bart hops in and travels back to 1974. Then Bart attends the android's dungeon and baseboard card shops, grand opening, and buys the Radioactive Man comic, though he later tosses it away as it feels too preachy. While passing Springfield High School, he sees Principal Don DeLinga reprimanding young Homer and Barney for smoking. Bart is surprised and enters the school. Bart claims to be Homer's unwanted future son who ruined his fun. This enrages young Homer, who starts choking Bart. Young Marge enters the room, witnessing the scene. She's disgusted by Homer's behavior and declines the prom invitation, walking away. Homer scolds Bart for ruining his love at first sight moment. Bart, concerned about his future after distracting young Homer from young Marge, checks his phone. His original future vanishes, but a new picture emerges, showing him by a fancy house which Bart finds promising. He persuades young Marge not to marry young Homer, and she agrees. Bart returns to the present, where young Homer hides in the time machine's trunk. Young Homer initially despairs about his ruined life, but changes his perspective when he sees enticing sights like Ken and Harry's cookie dough ice cream, Itchy and Scratchy on large screens, and an ad for Thursday night football. He's amazed by the future, but Chief Wiggum on Segway disappoints him. Bart arrives at his fancy home to find Marge making a smoothie for Artie Ziff. Bart is shocked to discover his mother's marriage to Artie and becomes Barty Ziff with curly hair. Artie welcomes Barty to his life and introduces his bully butler, Nelson Muntz. Barty orders Nelson to give himself a wedgie while young Homer watches from the window. Present Homer then confronts young Homer about being in his peeping tree, but soon realizes that the teenager on the other brands is actually a younger version of himself. He questions young Homer about why he's in the present, and young Homer explains he's here to make Marge settle for him. They decide to come up with a plan together. The doorbell rings and Homer arrives to reclaim his life. Artie reveals he anticipated this and mastered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Homer invites the United Federation of Homers through history, and after a brief scuffle, Artie and Barty manage to beat all the Homers. Present Homer instructs everyone to regroup and plan for the morning. Marge Marge arrives and is surprised by the multiple Homers. She expresses regret for marrying the wrong man and comforts the poor, sweet, simple Homers. Marge acknowledges that she should have been with all of them, including Caveman Homer. She tells Homer that she wishes she had chosen love 20 years ago, and they share a kiss while the other Homers watch. In the regular Simpsons house, all the Homers are watching TV when Marge enters and questions why none of them took out the garbage. Opera Homer suggests that the Egyptian slave Homer should do it, leading to some grumbling and laughter among the Homers. Oh, the places you will do. In Springfield's wild night, with Marge out of sight, kids with mumps alone, just one M&M in their bite. Enter the Fat in the Hat, causing quite a spat. Curing mumps with shots, chaos follows that. Grandpa's berated, knocked out by the Fat. Tiny helpers disposed, a dark twist in that. Gasoline ablaze, the house blows apart. The Borax appears, merchandise in the park. Through town they roam, havoc they sow. Burns' mansion crumbles, candy won't flow. Patty and Selma at the DMV meet their doom. Town hall explodes, animals set free to loom. Kids escape the Fat on a humble gumbamble ride. Krusty Forest crumble beheaded, Sideshow Bob on the side. B-Man of Bumble, their savior in the air. Back home they reach, but the Fat's waiting there. Gloating to stay, claiming to be their new father. Maggie intervenes, Fat meets his end and Rada. Ends with a sequel tease, a humorous chat. The Fat in the Hat pledges a frat. Head and shoulders. Parodying the thing with two heads, Bart and Milhouse fly a box kite. Milhouse, allergic, leaves for the hospital. Bart alone ties the kite's string around his neck, dozing off. Arnie Pie's helicopter snags the kite, slicing off Bart's head. He wakes up, head next to Lisa's, realizing they share a body. Against it initially, Lisa learns her brain controls both bodies from Dr. Hibbert. Homer creates a man cave in Bart's room, with no girls or boys attached to girls sign on the door. Willie alters the bathroom sign for them at school. Lisa presents Bart for show and tell, praised by Miss Hoover, but Bart is scolded by the teacher. In therapy, they learn to be friends. Then Bart realizes he controls the body when Lisa's asleep. To ensure control, he adds pills to Lisa's yogurt. Homer unknowingly adds more to his own. Failing to cut Lisa's head off with Skinner's car, Bart ties them to a sawmill log. Lisa forces Bart's head into the saw path, cutting it off. Gloating, she misses the next saw, losing her head too. Bart wakes up with Selma, his new karaoke partner. Lisa's head ends up on Krusty's body, becoming his comedy partner. Then it is shown that Dr. Hibbert and Dr. Nick are both connected. Freaks, no geeks. At Mr. Burnsom's Freaks Parody Carnival, Kang, Kodos, Bart on Selma's neck, Nelson as the human donkey, Acrobat Marguerite and the scary Freak Mo are showcased. Burnsom scolds the Freaks for leaving early, but Marguerite defends them. Homer reveals they are to marry the Freaks. After Burnsom and Strongman Homer depart, Mo and the Freaks thank Marguerite. She encourages them, kisses Mo on the cheek, and he falls in love with her. Lenny and Carl suggest Mo ask Marguerite out. Mo, feeling inferior to Strongman Homer, is reminded of his emerald ring by Lenny. Strongman Homer, revealing he's dying, convinces Marguerite to marry Mo. The Freaks welcome her, and Mo and Marguerite marry. She then catches Strongman Homer poisoning Mo's wine, losing respect for him. Strongman Homer sadly leaves Marguerite's trailer, but finds Mr. Burnsom murdered by the Freaks. They then emerge shouting "One of Us" and turn him into the world's strongest duck. In a How I Met Your Mother parody, the scene transitions to present day with Homer telling the story of how he met Marge. School is hell. Bart gets attention for gossiping about a naked lunch lady. While bored, he discovers an Aramaic inscription, and with Lisa's help, they get transported to Hell Roads, gaining demonic features. Lisa joins Mean Girls, causing a cold day in hell when she becomes popular. Bart encounters a two-headed demon resembling Skinner and Chalmers, which skins him and throws him into a classroom. In the class, the teacher discusses torturing a bank robber. Bart suggests feeding money to the robber, earning back his skin. He also proposes a bizarre torture involving a man wearing an aquarium as pants filled with piranhas, creating a gruesome cycle. Lisa gives Bart a map to escape hell, leading them to Mr. Burns' office. He reveals the Earth time, thanks them, and at home, Bart asks to enroll in hell. Homer and Marge meet the principal, who convinces Marge that hell nurtures its students. Bart excels in hell classes, focusing on torture and killing Jimbo Jones, earning him the honor student status. His final test requires him to torture Homer, who urges Bart to do it as a way of making up for past neglect. At graduation, the principal holds Webster hostage. Bill Z. Bart Simpson graduates as valedictorian, bringing joy to his family, which a headless Homer proudly observes. At Clockwork Yellow, Moe, Lenny, Carl, and Homer form a Clockwork Orange-style gang in London. Homer, smitten with Marge, decides to quit, leading the gang to fall apart. Years later, Moe is attacked at home in a manner reminiscent of the gang's past. He urges Homer to reunite the gang, and former members Lenny and Carl, now policemen, join them. They raid a masked orgy, echoing Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, and they parody several of his films in a fight. Then Kubrick appears in an editing room, demanding a reshoot of the entire film. The Others. In a parody of The Others, the Simpson family discovers mysterious frosty chocolate milkshakes, blood messages on the mirror reading Help Me, and their TV exclusively airs various versions of the late 1980s/1990s live-action sitcoms like Married with Children. Homer encounters a ghostly version of his family from the Tracy Ullman Show after a haunting experience. He's drawn to the ghost Marge, making the living Marge jealous. In an attempt to join them as a ghost, she tragically ends her life by cooking her head in the oven. Ghost Homer kills the living Homer with a toaster out of jealousy. Bart feigns suicide to trick Lisa, leading to her actual death. Lisa's ghost seeks revenge by killing Bart. Then groundskeeper Willie uses the children's corpses for stew. Homer chooses his present-day wife over the ghost. The next morning at breakfast, Lisa questions the potential for more Simpsons incarnations, citing corporate greed. CGI Simpsons, including the talking Santa's little helper, are joined by anime versions. Various Simpsons versions realize they've been manipulated into the wrong universe. The segment then ends with 1987 Homer struggling to take a portrait of both families, a homage to Family Portrait from the Tracy Ullman Show, resulting in a ruined photo. Wanted, dead then alive. Bart receives a message from Milhouse about Mr. Largo stuck in a harp, but it turns out to be a ruse by Sideshow Bob, who lured Bart to the music room to fulfill his lifelong dream of killing him. Sideshow Bob fatally shoots him with a spear gun. After celebrating his achievement, Sideshow Bob posts a selfie with Bart on Fiendbook. Despite achieving his life goal, Bob finds little satisfaction in becoming a teacher and builds a machine to repeatedly kill and revive Bart, mimicking the Itchy and Scratchy show. Lisa and Santa's little helper discover Bob's machine. The Simpson family breaks into his basement, reanimates Bart, but Bob threatens them with a shotgun for trespassing. Homer defeats Bob with a lamp. Marge allows Bart to keep Bob's body, and Bart transforms Bob into a bizarre creature. Reluctantly, Bob resumes his teaching career to a class of rude university students. Homerzilla. In a parody of Godzilla, Grandpa in Springfield, Japan drops daily donuts into the ocean to prevent a sea monster. Mocked by his family, he dies while preparing one, and the sea monster Homerzilla rises, destroying the city. In the present, executives deem the Godzilla movie terrible and decide on a remake. 2 years later, Zilla is released, but flops. They plan to discard merchandise, awakening another sea monster. A message then reveals that Homerzilla will return when people forget about the last one. Telepaths of Glory. Parodying Chronicle, Bart, Lisa, and Milhouse hike to spot butterflies. Bart and Milhouse's antics lead to Milhouse falling into a hole. To rescue him, Bart and Lisa jump in, and all three get stuck with nuclear waste. Then the radioactive explosion propels them out of the hole. Milhouse and Lisa wake up with telekinesis, but only Lisa wields it responsibly. Milhouse, intoxicated with power, ends up getting struck by lightning. Lisa denies involvement, prompting the family to investigate. They discover Maggie also possesses telepathic powers from using a radioactive pacifier. The episode ends with Kang and Kodos lamenting another cameo, referencing Treehouse of Horror 3. Try Hard. In a post-apocalyptic Springfield with a severe water shortage, Mr. Burns declares a gladiator-style competition where one child from each neighborhood must fight for a chance to spend a day at his reservoir, the only source of water left in the city. Lisa, chosen from Nevergreen Terrace, meets her coach Homer. In the battle, Ralph dies prematurely as he steps out and gets blown up before the event begins. Two boys seduce Lisa, but Homer intervenes and kills them. Later, Homer falls into a trap surrounded by other contestants. However, Lisa persuades them to avoid violence. She also rallies the people of Springfield against Mr. Burns. They liberate all the kids from the dome, demolish Burns' reservoir, and regret wasting the water. Yet, the released water leads to rain, triggering a flood and eventually an ice age. BFF. RIP. While playing hide and seek with Janie, Lisa witnesses Ned Flanders' lawnmower accidentally killing Janie. At Janie's funeral, Sherry and Terry offer to be Lisa's new best friends for life, but they are crushed by a falling tombstone. Distraught, Lisa seeks counseling, and the counselor suggests becoming her new best friend for life, only to be killed by a falling painting. At the doctor's funeral, Lisa becomes a suspect in her friend's murder investigation. Chief Wiggum discovers sparkle nail polish in Lisa's room, linking it to all 4 crime scenes. Lisa explains she used it with her former imaginary friend Rachel, whom she outgrew. Despite Lisa's denial of any involvement, Chief Wiggum remains suspicious and keeps a close watch on her. The next day on the school bus, all kids fear Lisa except Milhouse, who is killed by Rachel with a plastic bag. Chief Wiggum arrests Lisa, who admits Marge was right about Rachel. Lisa, realizing Rachel may target Marge, escapes with Bart's help. Meanwhile, Chief Wiggum is fatally stabbed by Snake in the police station. Lisa arrives home in time to save Marge from Rachel's murderous plan. Rachel discloses her intent to kill everyone Lisa loves while framing her. Trying to kill Homer, Rachel is distracted by his imaginary friend, Sergeant Sausage, whom she shoves into the microwave. When Lisa realizes Rachel exists only in her imagination, she transforms her into a version of her own mother, leading Rachel to vanish. Homer, mourning Sergeant Sausage, attempts to eat the remains, but Sergeant Sausage reveals his immortality, and the segment ends with Homer instructing him to get inside his stomach. Mofinger. In the James Bond and Kingsman movie parody, Bart, pursued by Dolph, Jimbo, and Kearney, seeks refuge in Moe's tavern. Moe, unexpectedly skilled, subdues the bullies and unveils a secret lair beneath the tavern, exposing the barflies as undercover agents. He discloses his desire for Bart to replace Homer, one of their top agents lost in action. Later, they learn their next target is Remo Industries, the wealthy owner of Duff Stadium. Breaking in, they discover Homer is the president, who discloses his plan to use a lava machine to force the world into surrendering, with beer as his celebration motive. As agents approach Homer, he unleashes a drug horde from the concession stand. Bart then escapes the fray and eventually kills his own father. Then the episode concludes with a James Bond style song celebrating 600 episodes. Now, I never covered the opening sequences, but I feel like for this episode I'm going to, as it's pretty epic. In the CGI short The Sweet Hereafter, on Halloween night in Springfield, animated Candy comes to life in front of a house. Butterfinger worries about being taken first, but Marge Bar reassures him, mentioning he's always the last. Homer mistakenly calls him Butterfinger instead of Butterfinger. Apple Lisa realizes kids avoid apples, fearing razor blades. Marge Bar suggests caramel for Lisa, who finds it dull. Shauna reaches for candy, but Homer cleverly lets Senior Mints get taken instead. When asked, Homer says he's going to heaven. As Shauna eats them, Senior Mints panics at her cigarette breath. The following day, as the homeowners remove Halloween decorations, the candy bowl is nearly empty, with only the Simpson family left. After the bowl is placed on a high shelf, a chocolate Easter bunny, feeling forgotten, sadly questions his lack of appeal. Homer comforts him, takes a piece of the bunny's ears, and eats it despite Marge Bar's objections. Apple Lisa can't bear the bunny suffering, so Homer eats its mouth to silence it. The Exorcist. In a parody of The Exorcist, a Pazuzu statue from a pre-Christian temple in Iraq arrives at the Simpson home after Homer mistakes it for pizza on Amazon. Homer, possessed, sings the Pazuzu lullaby to Maggie. The statue is placed across from her crib, and as soon as Homer leaves, Pazuzu promptly possesses Maggie. During a cocktail party downstairs, Marge sees possessed Maggie causing trouble. She kills Helen Lovejoy and, after locking everyone indoors, reveals Dr. Hibbert's infidelity before killing him. Ned Flanders informs the Simpsons that Maggie needs an exorcism, but is killed while trying to restrain her. Homer and Marge restrain possessed Maggie with Bible ribbons as her head turns 360 degrees. An Irish Catholic priest arrives, tests Pazuzu's power, and successfully exorcises the demon from Maggie. However, Pazuzu then possesses Bart, and the Pazuzu regrets it, noting Bart has the evilest soul he's ever seen. Bart asks Pazuzu to grow him some horns. Later, Pazuzu extends the horns through Homer's nose. Homer, discomfited, hopes the horns will excuse him from jury duty. However, he's later shown on a jury with a dismembered horn still through his nose, shouting "Doe." Cora Lisa, parodying Caroline, Maggie, still influenced by Pazuzu, violently vomits at the dinner table. In Lisa's room, Snowball guides her through a secret tunnel to an alternate family with button eyes. Initially intrigued, Lisa panics when they reveal their plan to sew buttons on her eyes. Her perspective changes after Homer kills a snake with Lisa's saxophone. Days later, the family notices Lisa's absence. Homer casually suggests that Maggie gets Lisa's clothes, belongings, and Bart gets Lisa's homework. Hearing this, Bart flees through the door, entering the alternate alternate reality. Marge and Homer then follow. In a confrontation, Homer accidentally kills alternate Bart, leading to alternate Homer injuring himself while seeking revenge with scissors. Irritated, alternate Marge transforms into a spider-like creature to attack Homer. Seizing the opportunity, Homer brings the surviving alternate family members home, with his alternate counterpart handling the parent-teacher meetings and alternate Marge managing chores and house security. Lisa, accepting the situation, acknowledges it could have been worse. Homer. Lisa warns of the upcoming disgusting content, and the episode unfolds with Homer alone at home. As the family goes on vacation with Patty and Selma, Homer eats all his food, leaving only vegetables. In a mishap involving Santa's little helper, he loses a frozen hot dog, accidentally cutting off his finger. Then he decides to eat it. Discovering the taste of how much he loves his cooked finger, Homer becomes obsessed, rejecting regular food, especially when he's invited to lunch by Flanders. He then starts creatively cannibalizing himself, cooking parts of his body as a lazy alternative to go into the grocery store before his family returns. Discovering Homer's self-cannibalism, Marge takes him to an addiction counselor. Mario Battelli persuades Homer to cook his remaining body parts as ingredients for Chez Homer and other Springfield restaurants. In heaven, Homer discusses the phenomenon of people eating parts of their bodies with Jesus. Meanwhile, Springfield residents have become cannibals. Intrusion of the Potty Switchers. In a parody of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the segment unfolds at an underwater maple base. The late Steve Mobs, on screen, introduces the new My Phone to a hyper audience. As everyone is engrossed in their phones, the unfunny Steve is exposed as a plant alien on a mission. On the plant planet, they shoot spores to Earth near the Planet Express ship with a Bring Back Futurama cloth, later blown up by the Orville. In Springfield, everyone morphs into plant versions, featuring a plant auto with a marijuana leaf head. Comic book guy notes it's a homage to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, pointing out the movie was a ripoff of The Thing. A plant version of the comic book guy frightens Milhouse and Bart by saying "Pad," prompting them to flee. Bart and Lisa try to escape in Lou's police car, but Lou transforms into a plant, infecting them. It turns out the people were transported to a utopian land by the plants. The plant citizens notice maple products with the citizens and ask where they found them, which Bart reveals they discovered them under the living room Christmas tree. Multiplicity. Following a sleepover at the Van Houten residence, Milhouse, Nelson, and Bart wake up in a cell. They are later released by Lisa, who, posing as a British girl named Penelope, confesses to being the one who trapped them. She enticed them with ketamine-laced Sunny D bottles. Penelope, actually one of Lisa's multiple personalities, behaves oddly and locks them back in when they don't request an encore of her performance. Lisa then attacks, knocking Milhouse into a recycling bin and killing Nelson. Bart then asks what happened to her, and Lisa explains that Bart altered her spelling test, mocked Miss Hoover, and gave her an F. Lisa offers Bart a final chance for redemption, and he seizes it, saving himself from a trash-related demise, while Milhouse gets transformed into a literal paperboy. Geriatric Park. In a parody of Jurassic Park, Mr. Burns unveils a Jurassic-themed retirement home, where elders are rejuvenated by blending their DNA with dinosaurs. He invites Springfielders to the park, presenting it as the new retirement home. Initially human and rejuvenated with newfound strength, they undergo a transformation into dinosaur creatures when Homer raises the temperature following Grandpa's complaint about it being too cold. Visitors and Mr. Burns meet their demise at the hands of the elders. The Simpson family faces a threat from Grandpa and Jacqueline Bouvier, but Lisa bravely confronts Grandpa. Through her courage, they discover that all the elders needed was to be cherished and respected. Ultimately, the Simpson family escapes unharmed, but their helicopter is piloted by Ludodactylus Agnes. Now, like I did with Treehouse of Horror 28, I'm going to cover the opening sequence again, because why not? In a parody of The Omen, it's revealed Marge's third baby is a boy. Homer, not wanting another troublemaker like Bart, agrees to Dr. Hibbert adopting Maggie. However, Maggie demonstrates demonic powers by choking Hibbert with his stethoscope and burning him. Maggie uses her powers to manipulate stuffed animals, making them vomit stuffing and causing harm to Coney and Jimbo. Ned witnesses her abilities and tries to kill her at a deserted church, believing she's marked by the devil. Despite Homer and Marge's intervention, Ned reveals the supposed mark of the beast to be Mickey Mouse, but the true mark is 666. As Ned attempts to kill Maggie, she levitates and breaks through the church roof. Homer remarks that Maggie is preferable to another boy. Suddenly, giant spear-like weapons impale all three of them through their heart, unveiling the title Treehouse of Horror 30. Danger Things. In a parody of Stranger Things, set in the 1980s, after playing the Atari 2600 game E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Milhouse is abducted by a Demogorgon. His father Kirk communicates through Christmas lights. In the Over Under, a parody of the Upside Down, Milhouse contacts the Simpsons, but hangs up after learning Lisa doesn't share his feeling. With Bart and Nelson's help, they enlist Jonathan Frink to travel to the Over Under. Lisa finds Milhouse in another dimension. There, they encounter a Demogorgon-filled alternate Springfield. Lisa's psychic powers save them from the creatures, but they are rescued by Homer, part of Mr. Burns' monster hunting program. Unable to return home, the Simpsons opt to reside in the Over-Under. Homer is relieved to find no Ned Flanders in the Over-Under until a Demogorgon version of Flanders appears, prompting Homer to incinerate it. Heaven swipes right. In a parody of Heaven Can Wait, Homer chokes on a hot dog and dies during a football game. He's meant to still be alive, but his decomposed body can't be revived. He's then placed into the body of a handsome athlete. Marge is thrilled to have Homer back, but his new body is ruined by eating junk food. He then inhabits the body of Gary Chalmers, which Bart uses to torment Principal Skinner. But when he sees his paycheck, he dies of shock. After briefly occupying a monkey's body resembling Mr. Teeny, he switches to Moe Sislax. A twist then unfolds as Moe has taken Maggie's body, much to Marge's horror. When Harry met Slimy. In a parody of The Shape of Water, Selma, portraying Eliza, falls for an alien named Kang. She assists him in escaping captivity with Homer's help. As they are pursued, they rendezvous with Kang's sister, Kodos, atop Mount Springfield. Selma is fatally shot by soldiers, prompting Kang to obliterate them with the Infinity Gauntlet. Kang revives Selma by claiming she's pregnant. Patty intervenes, warning Selma not to leave Earth, but ends up falling for Kodos when they share their sexual preferences. Springfield is having its presidential election, and Marge is waiting in line to vote. She calls Homer to find out why he isn't participating. Relaxing on his hammock, Homer consults his horoscope, which tells him not to vote. He ends the call and drifts off to sleep, dreaming about voting, but unsure of his decision. Lisa appears in his dream, questioning his hesitation and reminding him of the past 4 years. A list shows some of Trump's actions over the past few years, with one error.
Someone made that up.
Homer votes in his dream, but Marge wakes him up. Homer then says it's not important that he didn't vote. On January 20, 2021, the town is in ruins with US security robots everywhere. The horsemen of the apocalypse arrive, carrying flags that read Pestilence, Famine, War, and Treehouse of Horror 31. Toy Gory. In this CGI animated segment, Bart picks toys to donate to charity. He asks Marge for time to say goodbye to them, and she agrees. Once she's gone, Bart mutilates the toys and puts the remnants in the donation box. He gets rewarded with a Radioactive Man figure, which comes to life. Radioactive Man believes he's in good hands until a Krusty the Clown doll reveals Bart's history of abusing toys, showing him the battered toys. Later, Bart plays with Radioactive Man, pretending he has to save the city from a bomb. Bart puts the toy in the microwave but gets called away by Homer. Radioactive Man declares revenge before melting and exploding in the microwave. The toys hold a funeral for Radioactive Man and decide to take action. That night, they drag Bart to his treehouse and wake him. Surprised, Bart says he wouldn't have tortured them if he knew they had feelings. Milhouse then enters, pointing out that Bart mistreats him even though he has feelings. The toys give Bart plastic surgery and throw him out of the treehouse. Later, Lisa finds Bart unresponsive in the yard, only reacting with a canned response from a pull string in his back. The family rushes him to Dr. Hibbert, who reveals Bart's bones and organs have been replaced with toy mechanics, though he doesn't know how. Homer and Marge beg Bart to speak, but only get another canned response, leaving them in despair. Back home, the toys play with and torture Bart's lifeless body, reversing the roles. Into the Homerverse. On Halloween night, Homer works late at the nuclear power plant. Marge calls to ask about where the Halloween candy is. Homer discovers he ate it after checking security cameras. Frantically searching, he stumbles upon a strange machine with nickel slots. Mistaking it for a vending machine, it unleashes other dimensional versions of himself. The Homers cause chaos by devouring all the food, leaving Marge to cook for all 6 of them. Lisa reveals that Homer's actions ruptured the space-time continuum, bringing Homers from other dimensions to Earth. She insists the only solution is to return them through the machine to their respective dimensions. After the Homers return, they are interrupted by alternate dimension Mr. Burns and Smithers. In the chaos that follows their victory, Mr. Burns breaks the machine, sucking everyone except the real Homer, Mr. Burns, and Smithers away. Marge finds herself with Detective Homer, the Homer she desires, who quickly transforms into Cat Homer and leaves quickly. B9 Rewind. Today is Lisa's 9th birthday, and she reflects on how different it feels. Marge calls her down for cake, but Sherry and Terry mock the party as for losers. Distressed, Lisa wishes to die, and suddenly a car crashes through the wall, killing her. She awakens at her desk, reliving the same events. Lisa realizes she's stuck in a time loop when the car crashes through again. Nelson, who shares her ability, explains and they try to strategize. Trapped in repetitive deaths, Lisa tries various ways to break the cycle, each attempt leading to her resurrection. Nelson suggests they team up, but their attempts at teamwork go awry, ending in gruesome deaths. Despite setbacks, they keep trying, treating each failure like a game checkpoint, hoping for a breakthrough. Nelson is relieved they revive each time but finds it frustrating. They seek help from Comic Book Guy, who explains the time loop as ambitious yet lazy in sci-fi. He suggests breaking it by being kind, like in Groundhog Day, saving whales, Star Trek 4, using a specific knock-knock joke, Orange you glad I didn't say banana, or as seen in Edge of Tomorrow, a flop that's relevant. Lisa explains they've tried those methods, but Comic Book Guy advises using their combined powers to save each other. That night, Nelson stops Gil by hurling a cinder block, breaking the time loop. They reappear live, but as Lisa thanks him for the lesson of turning 9, Nelson claims he learned nothing. At home, Marge kisses Lisa, who realizes the imperfection of days and vows to enjoy each one. The Simpsons wish her a happy birthday. Lisa turns 9, feeling the universe has returned to normal, except for Ralph, who still has his head turned in the wrong position. Bong Joon-ho's This Side of Parasite. In a parody of the 2019 movie Parasite, the Simpsons secretly live in a rich man's basement to escape their flooded, rundown house. Kirk discovers them, and Sideshow Mel explains the gory allegory. Kirk then stabs him with his bones, sparking a fight. During the battle, Mr. Burns is nearly shot, Smithers is stabbed, and Mr. Burns is beaten to death. The next morning, everyone is found dead, and Maggie slides down the bodies. Nightmare on Elm Tree. In a parody of A Nightmare on Elm Street, which honestly is probably one of my favorite horror series, Bart's scary stories drive Lisa and Maggie to hide in their parents' bedroom, interrupting Homer and Marge. Fed up, Homer starts chopping down Bart's treehouse, but tires and passes out after a few chops. A thunderstorm animates the tree, which kicks Homer for trying to chop it down. The tree stumbles upon a drive-in showing Groot from the Guardians of the Galaxy and attacks people for laughing at him. He then discovers a farm with a sign about chopping down trees for Christmas. Disgusted, he animates other trees and wooden objects, including a baseball bat. Homer and the citizens of Springfield prepare to fight the trees, but the trees spread pollen, weakening the humans and causing groundskeeper Willie to accidentally saw off his arms. Random, I know. After the trees kill all the humans, they dance around the statue of Jebediah Springfield. Homer briefly regains consciousness, but is knocked out again by the wooden bat. Now, I was surprised with this little interlude. I wasn't going to cover this because I didn't want to ruin it for you, but let me quickly break it down because, you know, it's just an interlude. Vincent Price reads Maggie a bedtime story about Bart's mischievous antics throughout the year, with each month highlighting a different prank or trouble he caused. From January's earthworms in waffles to November's human jerky, Bart's behavior is consistently terrible. Before Price can get to December, Maggie strangles him and then spells RIP before going to sleep. Dead Ringer. Dead Ringer parodies The Ring and TikTok. Sherry and Terry tell Lisa about a party she wasn't invited to, where they watch the cursed TikTok that kills viewers after 7 days. Sherry and Terry die in front of Lisa. Bart reveals he didn't watch the TikTok, but Milhouse, who was his bouncer at a party, watched it 8 times and is then stabbed by 8 knives. Bart and Lisa investigate, getting Grandpa to watch the TikTok and describe it to them. The video in Dead Ringer resembles the VHS from The Ring. Lisa and Bart question Principal Skinner about it, but he dismisses them. They turn to groundskeeper Willie, who recounts the legend of Moby Mary. She jumped into a well and her body remained there for 7 days after Valentine's Day. Willie found her body and covered the well to conceal it. Lisa then watches the TikTok and receives the ominous message, 7 days. Frustrated, she challenges the phone operator to kill her immediately, but is humorously left on hold. Mary emerges from the television and Lisa befriends her by giving her a Valentine. Lisa becomes overly clingy, even writing a song for Mary, who eventually retreats back into the well. The episode concludes with a teaser for Treehouse of Horror 33 and a last-minute appearance by Kang and Kodos before the credits roll. The Pookadook. Marge looks for a bedtime story for Maggie and keeps finding the Pookadook. After Maggie insists, Marge reads it but finds it too scary and stops. Later, Maggie wakes up screaming because the book mysteriously appears in her crib. Marge tears up the book and throws it out. The next morning, it reappears repaired on her doorstep. She burns it on the barbecue only to discover discover from a surviving page that the book wanted to be burned. The Pookadook then emerges from the flames and possesses Marge. The Pookadook plans to kill Maggie but sends the family away to an overnight aquarium sleepover first. Maggie escapes the basement, locks the door, and starts assembling recalled baby gear and toys to trap the Pookadook. When the Pookadook breaks into the basement, Maggie launches a flaming doll at it. She then shoots a crayon gun but misses. As the Pookadook goes downstairs, it trips on the crayon and falls unconscious. The Pookadook then wakes up tied up by Maggie. She tries to reach Marge by showing her a homemade mug and a photo of them together, but it doesn't work. The Pookadook breaks free and Maggie quickly escapes up the stairs. Maggie hangs on for her life but eventually falls into the Pookadook's arms. She touches Marge's cheek, breaking through to her. Marge expels the Pookadook and vacuums it up with her outdoor vacuum. As Marge and Maggie reconcile, Homer and the kids return from the aquarium after getting sick. Death Tome. Now, I wasn't really a fan when I watched this segment, as I just felt like I wasn't watching The Simpsons, but anyways, let me quickly cover it. In a parody of Death Note, Lisa finds a death tome that kills anyone whose name is written in it, with unique, non-repeating deaths. After testing it on Snake Jailbird, she realizes her power and contemplates her actions. A Shinigami named Steve Johnson appears, telling her she can use the death tome. During dinner, Mr. Burns reveals his plan to melt ice caps for his yacht. Lisa writes his name in the book, causing him to die in his sleep, though he falls into a barbecue pit instead. Lisa is thrilled that Mr. Burns' death ended Globo warm, but Steve informs her that she must kill the entire board of directors. A montage shows Lisa writing names, causing humorous deaths. The next day, a news report reveals the Globo warm deaths were identified as murders, thanks to an anonymous tip from someone named L. Lisa wonders how someone knew about the death tome and realizes L is from Bart's graffiti, El Barto. Bart reveals he learned about it from her diary. Lisa pretends to write Bart's name, but writes Steve Johnson's instead, killing him with space junk. Finally excited to be free from the book, she is then transformed into a Shinigami herself. Simpsons World. Now, unlike the last segment, I absolutely loved this one as it gave me a lot of nostalgia. As the monorail conductor, Homer shows his family around. When Homer tells Marge he calls the big possum Bitey, two others say the same line simultaneously. One pours beer down Homer's throat, causing him to malfunction and reveal he's a robot. The robot recites iconic lines from the show before being shut down by a park employee. The malfunctioning Homer robot is taken backstage for repairs, but wakes up in an unfamiliar area. Discovering a device to increase his self-awareness, he does so just as employees plan to dismantle him, accidentally causing tools to fatally injure them. Homer flees in search of his family. Homer then activates a self-aware Lisa robot, adjusting her settings when she struggles with her identity. They wake the family except Grandpa and leave. Walking through Springfield, park goers ask Homer to do the hedge beam. Reluctantly, Homer complies until Bart switches off his human preservation setting. Homer pushes the park goers into the hedge, killing them and triggering an alarm. Ralph Wiggum robots try to stop the Simpsons, who fight back with references from past episodes. Surrounded, they think they're doomed, until Marge arrives in a Canyonero and saves them. They escape, toppling a statue of Matt Groening on their way out. In Bob's Burgers, the Simpsons are served by Linda Belcher. They discuss their future plans while Linda sings about cheese. The camera pans out to reveal they're in Bob's Burgers land, then further out to show other theme parks based on animated shows. During the credits stop motion sequence, Kang and Kodos close the book of stories and freak out upon seeing themselves inside a wizard's hovel. Wild Barts can't be token. At the Springfield Museum of Art, Mayor Quimby announces the museum's closure and the digitization of its art into NFTs. Meanwhile, Homer and Bart sneak in. Bart's body gets destroyed, sending him to the blockchain. When Homer tells Marge, she's horrified. Kylie Jenner, Rob Gronkowski, and Jimmy Fallon then inform Marge that she must enter the blockchain to retrieve Bart. Random, I know. Marge goes to the museum where Kylie Jenner gives her a key to the blockchain's back door. Marge enters the Easy Funge Art digitizer and gets digitized. In the blockchain, she finds herself in the rear carriage of a train carrying worthless NFTs. Despite being told she can't move further, Marge tries anyway, kills an NFT, and her value goes up. She advances to the next carriage, where cat NFTs tell her to increase her value by destroying other NFTs. Marge then makes her way through the train, killing NFTs along the way. away. In the real world, Kirk and Chief Wiggum turn Milhouse and Ralph into NFTs, merging them on the blockchain. Marge kills them and reaches the train's front carriage. Finding Bart enjoying luxury, Marge tries to convince Bart to leave, while Mr. Burns convinces Homer to sell Bart. Homer hits the sell button just as Marge and Bart escape, and Lisa reveals Homer sold himself as an NFT. Homer enjoys his new life on the train until the NFT craze ends, leaving him and all the other NFTs worthless. He shouts dough, causing an avalanche that buries the train, trapping them all. 8. Sideshow Bob sings He Is an Englishman to Bart on a boat heading to Springfield. Honestly, when this segment first came on, it gave me quite a bit of goosebumps because as a kid, I absolutely loved this episode. Which if you want to actually watch the original, it's from season 5, episode 2 called Cape Fear. Bob realizes Bart was distracting him, and as Lisa climbs up to a window, she sees Bob violently murder Bart with a machete. 30 years later, Lisa is a criminal psychology professor at Springfield University. Police officer Nelson Muntz seeks her help with a case where the killer left a message for her. At the scene, Lisa finds Rod murdered with "Rod is the first" written in blood. As she analyzes the crime, another body, Mantegna Prince, is found with the same message. More victims, including Dermot Spuckler and Sherry, are discovered with identical messages. Realizing she's in over her head, Lisa turns to the only person deranged enough to help her: Sideshow Bob. At the prison, Lisa asks Sideshow Bob for help, but he refuses, suggesting she solve it herself. He offers to speak in riddles or anagrams. When Lisa leaves, Bob recites a limerick about killing Bart, angering her. At Sherry's funeral, Terry reveals Sherry was the older twin, leading Lisa to realize all victims were firstborn children. Bob's anagram hint leads Lisa and Nelson to anagram spooky abandoned slaughterhouse. Nelson is killed on a meat hook, and Lisa discovers the killer's lair resembling her bedroom, with footage of her actually killing Nelson. And like the way it just reveals that she's a killer just like that, it's kind of a bit of a letdown for me. But anyways, it's The Simpsons. Lisa is then dragged off to prison. In prison, Sideshow Bob returns to his cell to find Lisa waiting. Lisa reveals she has a split personality, with her professor persona as an unwitting accomplice. Maggie, now a security guard, helped her reach Bob's cell. Lisa then kills Bob while playing He Is an Englishman on his record player and dancing. Louts break. At the power plant, Homer tries to eat donuts in the turbine room despite Smithers' warnings. Complaining about the nanny state, Homer drops a donut, which rolls away and gets covered in radioactive waste. After catching and eating it, the donut mutates Homer's DNA. The next morning, Homer burps in Ned's face, making him unwell. At church, Ned transforms into a clone of Homer and infects everyone else with a burp. The virus spreads, making everyone in town stupid and lazy. Bart, Lisa, and Maggie, unaffected as Homer's children, are taken by Professor Frink to stop the outbreak. They search for Homer at Moe's Tavern and then Sudsy Car Wash. There, Homer questions why he would want to return to normal, as the world is now a utopia to him. Professor Frink reveals Marge is infected, but Homer finds her more beautiful. As Frink tries to call a nuke on Springfield, Homer accidentally infects him with a back scratcher. The infected Homer sings Just Like Paradise, while scene shows the infection spreading globally. Then the camera zooms out to reveal Earth covered in green clouds. The information rage. At Quimby's meeting, Lisa suggests giving everyone LED light bulbs, but political arguments erupt. The chaos cracks the ocean floor, releasing two kaiju beings, Red Monster and Blue Monster, each embodying the town's divided views. As the monsters destroy the town, Professor Frink builds a robot piloted by two siblings to fight them. After initial chaos and accidentally crushing Otto, Lisa wonders why there are only two monsters given the world's madness. Soon, more creatures like 4chansaurus, Facebookzilla, Mecha Reddit, and Rogan appear. When the monsters make Homer roll away in a donut, Bart and Lisa finally team up, forcing the other monsters to flee. After defeating the monsters, they warn Springfield to stay calm and avoid social media to prevent their return. But 3 news cycles later, powerful monsters wipe out humanity, leaving only Bart and Lisa on the ruined robot, reflecting on how fast society has collapsed because of the internet. The Fall of the House of Monty. After work at the Burns and Excellent Corn Syrup Factory, the crew heads to Burns' mansion for a long-running project tied to Lenny's family history. On Thanksgiving night, they must win a wishbone contest before having dinner. Willie wins the wishbone contest, but Burns dumps dinner into a hole, sending Moe to his death. Agnes warns Burns that breaking his Thanksgiving vow will doom him to be haunted by everyone he has wronged. At the factory, a starving Homer tries to fill a cup with corn syrup, but falls in and gets boiled alive. alive. He pulls a chain, releasing the syrup and wiping out all the workers. Later, as Burns goes to bed, ghosts destroy his belongings in his mansion, terrifying him. Ghost mode pushes Mr. Burns off the balcony and he lands on Agnes, crushing her to death. As Burns tries to escape, the ghosts block his way and surround him. Desperate, he offers them food, but they demand his soul instead. Ghost Agnes appears, and in his panic, Mr. Burns sets the mansion on fire. The next day, Smithers and Sideshow Mel visit the destroyed mansion, puzzled by Burns' actions. They decide to call it Black Friday in remembrance as a day to honor workers and avoid exploiting them for deals. Denim. Homer and Barney visit the generous cut to buy jeans, hoping to impress Marge at Irv's non-canonical diner. An electrical anomaly causes a tear, and a pair of jeans named Denim emerges, fitting Homer perfectly. He then heads to the diner wearing them. When Snake attempts to rob the diner, Denim takes control, saving Marge by disarming and strangling him. As the police arrive, Homer and Denim make their escape. Denim reveals to Homer that they are from the planet Wrangler, where toxic rainfall has aged them. To survive in the human world, they need a human host, which is why he has chosen Homer. Denim takes Homer to a hot dog stand for a chili dog and guides him as he dances to impress Marge. They have a fun evening at the apartment, but Homer wants to take things further with Marge. However, Denim refuses to let go and drags Homer to Moe's instead. Denim questions if Marge is trying to break them up, leading Homer to drink beer until he passes out. Back at the apartment, Marge tries to watch Denim, but this backfires as Denim, enraged, goes after her. Homer grabs a lemon to blind Denim and frees Marge, stabbing himself in the leg. Denim continues chasing Marge, eventually cornering her on the rooftop. Homer pauses, torn between choosing Denim or saving Marge, but ultimately decides he wants to keep her alive. Back at the apartment, Denim asks Homer if he'll stop following her on Facebook. Homer can't lie and thanks Denim for saving Marge's life. In the end of the episode, a massive rift opens and a rain of Denims descends upon the planet. If you want to see another Treehouse of Horror episode, then click this video right here.